We'll get started. Good evening. It is 7 o'clock on Wednesday, January 14th, and I'm calling this meeting of the Planning Board of Chelmsford to order. My name is Chris LaValle, and I'm the chair of the board. Tonight, we will be following the posted agenda. This meeting tonight is both in person and via Zoom. If Zoom fails at any point during the meeting, we will continue in person. The meeting is being televised live and recorded via Chelmsford Telemedia and will be available on their website and on YouTube. Tonight we have a full board. Anita Tanini is on Zoom, so we will be doing roll call voting tonight for any of the motions. All right, first item on the agenda is public input. Public input shall be limited to statements from the public relating to any issues within the jurisdiction of the Chelmsford Planning Board, but are not currently the subject of a pending public hearing before us. Public comment on any public hearing shall only be heard during those hearings. Is any member of the public here wishing to speak during public input? Yes, come right up to the microphone. Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Dale Crandall, Jr. I'm the trustee of Riverneck Road Realty Trust. I'm a direct abutter at 243 Riverneck Road. I just had a couple of questions. I don't know who could address them and who can't, so whoever can best answer this. I don't know if there's questions for later for the water department or whatever, but one of my questions.
Is it related to the water department's PFAS treatment plant?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Okay, so that would be after, we
Okay,
take
that's
those
why
questions after
I
they
wasn't
present.
sure, okay, but
Yep.
when it's my time to speak.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other members of the public? Any on Zoom, Evan? All right. We will move to the first public hearing. New public hearing, which is the 50 Orleans Street, Chelmsford Water District, Riverneck Water Treatment Facility, seeking a site plan review per section 195-104 and special permit per section 195-74 related to the lot coverage for the aquifer protection zone.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Justin Rosenberg. Joined by my colleague Steve DiFrancesco. We're from AECom, the design engineer of the Riverneck PFAS project. We also did, as you remember, the designer for the Crooked Spring PFAS treatment project. And we're also joined by Brandon and John from representing the Chelmsford Water District. We'll be presenting on behalf of the district. So as the chair said, this is for the Riverneck Water Treatment Plant PFAS Improvements Project located at 50 Orleans Street. Planning Board file 2026-01, number 1 of the year. Next slide, please. So I'll just start off with a project overview. If you remember from the Crooked Spring project, a lot of this is going to be very familiar. It's a very, very similar project to Crooked Springs with some slight changes. So as similar to the Crooked Spring project back in 2021, the Riverneck plant also exceeded the state PFAS drinking water limit, and the district was again placed under that consent order to treat and remove the PFAS from the drinking water supply. So again, very, very similar to Crooked Spring. The improvements at the Riverneck treatment plant is going to include the new PFAS treatment building. You can see the rendering on the screen there. It's about a 6,200 square foot masonry building. And the main purpose of this structure is to house several carbon filters that remove the PFAS. It includes also a smaller electrical room, mechanic room, et cetera. So as I said, this is a 3D rendering of that. Again, very, very similar to Crooked Spring. So here we have the site plan of the Riverneck site with the PFAS building. I guess the main points to highlight for new work is, of course, the PFAS building, kind of in the middle right of the screen there, and the new access road to get over to the PFAS building, which is coming off of the existing road down to the existing plant. One thing you might remember from the Crooked Spring presentation was we actually had a second building on that project, which was a spent wash water tank, which receives backwash water sending through the filters when you have to clean them periodically. That water is sent to that spent wash water tank. In this project, actually, we're reusing the existing backwash tank that's on site, so that's going to minimize some of the disturbance on site that we had on Crooked Spring. So, just a single new building on this project. So here we have a snip taken from the town GIS website, and what this shows is the extent of the district's properties in the area. Again, the actual project is taking place on that large lot in the middle of the screen there, but all of the lots with the dashed line represent Chelmsford Water District property. And so we've called out some of the most prominent features here, of course, the existing treatment plant building, the existing spent wash water basin, and that's the location of the new PFAS building. And as you can see by the dimensions on the corner there, we're very far from the abutters on River Neck Road. As you can see, the closest one is actually over 180 feet from that property on the corner there. And then the other corner of the building is 230 feet setback from River Neck Road. And then the other property lines aren't shown, but those are well over 500-600 feet away from abutters on the west side of the property. So this is a should be a very familiar graphic as well. So this is a floor plan of the interior of the building. Very simple. Again, it's a masonry structure to house the carbon filters in a depressed floor to meet the roof requirements of the planning board. So that main process area is kind of the main part of the plant. On the left is just a clear well for backwashing, and then on the right you have just a small electrical room, mechanical room, and storage room. This is just a section cut of that very same building. Again, very, very similar to Crooked Spring. Again, you can see the backwash clear wall on the left, process area, which will house the carbon filters on the right, and then a cut of the mechanical room. It's important to note again that we are several feet below the 35-foot limit of roof height above finish grade. So this slide, again, just highlighting some of the main characteristics of the project. The one thing that is, I think, the most different from Crooked Spring is the fact that we are in NHESP priority habitat for the Blandings turtle. So back during design, we had submitted to the state for review. They had come back and stated that the Blandings turtle was the endangered species of this property. We were required to develop a turtle protection plan to be implemented as part of this project. We had developed that plan. That had been submitted to the state for review. It was approved in November of 2025, and it was part of the application that we had provided to the planning board. So that's kind of the big main change from Crooked Spring. A lot of this, again, is very, very similar to Crooked Spring. We do have some minimal tree clearing for the new PFAS building, and of course that new access road as I highlighted, but really the rest of these characteristics are exactly the same as Crooked Springs. We have no change in use. This is previously a water treatment plant. It's still going to be a water treatment plant. As I showed, we're not close to any property lines with the new building. No new treatment chemicals, no more traffic. There's no additional staff, no additional parking. We have underground infiltration trenches to handle runoff from the structures, and we'll actually be utilizing the existing detention basin there as well to handle runoff. We have no additional site lighting. There's going to be no additional noise or odors generated from this project. We're not disturbing greater than an acre of land. As I mentioned earlier, that building roof peak is about 1.5 feet below the 35-foot height requirement. We've also spoken with the Conservation Commission. We're not in any jurisdictional areas, and we had no impacts to the floodplain identified. And we've also spoken to the Chelmsford Fire Department. They, again, determined, as is with Crooked Springs, no sprinklers are needed for this building. And we also reviewed the current site access with them, and they also indicated that, like Crooked Springs, the current site access is acceptable. So with that, I guess I'll open it up to questions and consideration for site plan review and special permit granting.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Evan, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
All right. Joel, we do have some letters to be read.
Yes, we do. Let me get to those. Okay. The first one is from DPW, from Sheila Joyce, project engineer. The engineering department has performed a review of the site plan application submitted for applicant. The following contents of the submission were reviewed for appropriateness of method and accuracy, as well as for compliance with the Town of Chelmsford Stormwater Bylaw, Town of Chelmsford Stormwater Management Regulations, Division 3, Sewer Capacity and Connection Restriction. So they reviewed the application packet. Site plan review, outstanding DPW engineering issues not addressed. Provisions for an enclosed dumpster pad and dumpster should be depicted upon the plan sets. The long-term and perpetual care of the dumpster, including the emptying and the enclosure, will be the responsibility of the property owner. During construction, care should be taken to maintain separation of at least 10 feet horizontally from the edge of sewer services to the edge of water services. Where a horizontal separation of 10 feet is not practical, both services can be installed closer to each other, but the water service must be 18 inches higher than the sewer service per DEP standards. See Massachusetts Water Laws, Chapter 9, Section 9.8. Signage for no snow storage in detention basin should be posted. Construction entrance should be shown and detailed with 3 to 6 inches of riprap. Cut and fill calculations must be submitted. If applicable, areas on site with slopes which exceed 3:1 must have stabilization. The following serve as reminders in writing and are not specific action items for the site plan. Orleans Street is a private and not a town-accepted road. No work shall interfere with easements, including but not limited to New England Power Service Company easement. Sewer comments. No increase to the Town of Chelmsford sewer infrastructure shall be more than 500 gallons per day. It is DPW's understanding that there is an existing on-site sewer treatment system with sufficient capacity to treat additional flows from the PFAS treatment system. No increase to Town of Chelmsford sewer infrastructure is proposed. Backup power for pump system to existing on-site sewer treatment system should be included on plans. Recommended stormwater management conditions. Ownership as well as O&M of all stormwater systems and BMP should be clearly stated on the plans to avoid confusion in the future regarding responsibility of the stormwater management facility. The deeds or a covenant should clearly specify the homeowners or association or property owner whom shall be responsible for owning the system, as well as inspection and maintenance schedules. It is the owner's responsibility to provide completed annual compliance records to the engineering department at 9 Alpha Road. The project stormwater management system shall comply with the Department of Environmental Protection's stormwater management policy. Stormwater Standard 1, untreated discharges. Standard met, include calculations to support maximum velocity of 0.13 feet per second for 2-year 24-hour storm. Stormwater Standard 2, peak rate control and flood prevention. Standard not met. For AP1, post-development peak runoff rate exceeds the pre-development peak runoff rate for the 25-year storm event and the 100-year storm event. For AP2, post-development peak runoff rate exceeds the pre-development peak runoff rate for the 2-year storm event. For AP1, the volume of runoff associated with the 100-year storm increases from 5,047 cubic feet to 13,220 cubic feet. Stormwater Standard 3, recharge to groundwater. Standard met. Test pits in recharge areas must be witnessed by town representative, DPW engineering. For confirmation, are required in the infiltration areas, may be accomplished after approval and prior to drainage installation. Confirm impervious area value, 16,621 square feet versus 16,427 square feet. Difference is negligible for calculations, but consistent value should be used. Stormwater Standard 4, 80% TSS removal. Mass DEP standard met. Town of Chelmsford stormwater standards met to the maximum extent practicable. Stormwater Standard 5, higher potential pollutant loads. Standard met. There are no land uses with higher potential pollutant loads within the project site. Stormwater Standard 6, critical areas. Standard met. Stormwater Standard 7, redevelopment project. Standards 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This project does not meet the qualifications of a redevelopment project. This standard does not apply. Stormwater Standard 8, erosion and sediment control. Standard met. DPW reserves the right to review an erosion and sedimentation control plan for the site. This must be submitted prior to the pre-construction meeting. The stormwater pollution prevention plan to be developed by the contractor prior to construction shall be submitted to the DPW director. A minor land disturbance permit is required for this project. Stormwater Standard 9, operation and maintenance, standard met. Stormwater Standard 10, illicit discharge, standard met. Recommended general conditions of approval. And these are, looks like they are all the typical standard conditions, so I won't read through those. You can see them in the attached document. From the fire department, fire prevention officer, dear members of the board, the fire prevention office respectfully submits the following comments and conditions for your consideration regarding the proposed water treatment plant at 50 Orleans Street. We should all know these by now. Code compliance. All construction shall comply with applicable codes and regulations, including but not limited to the Massachusetts State Building Code, 780 CMR, applicable Massachusetts CMRs, Massachusetts general laws, relevant NFPA standards, and the Town of Chelmsford bylaws. This office will review the project plans as part of the building permitting process. Knox box. Keys to be provided on completion of the project for access to the facility. Knox box keyed to Chelmsford Fire Department specifications to be installed in coordination with this office for the location. Site access. Plans will need to be submitted depicting truck turning plans utilizing Chelmsford Ladder 1 to this office. Snow storage plans also need to be shown on site plans. We respectfully request that this letter and the outline conditions be incorporated into the planning board's decision and entered into the public record. Sincerely, Josh Abbott, Captain of Fire Prevention Office. Conservation Commission replies, this project does not require approval by the Chelmsford Conservation Commission, but does require approval by the Massachusetts Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, since it is located within mapped rare species habitat. And then also from the building commissioner, Mr. Kanata, please be advised, should the planning board approve your PFAS treatment facility at the above subject address, you still need to meet all zoning bylaws, yard requirement as per 195 attachment to table of dimensional requirements. Do not hesitate to contact me with questions, comments, and/or concerns. Thank you. Respectfully, Jose Negro. And there were no comments from police and also not from the Chelmsford Water District. I believe that is all the town letters, and then we also have a private resident letter as well that's attached to the agenda. I believe
Okay.
that's it.
Thank you. All right, we will go around the board for questions. Mike?
Nothing in particular, although I'll note the letter asking we add the wood turtles to the turtle list.
Yep.
Which I would thoroughly support.
Okay. Joel?
Yep, I have a few questions. I noticed on the plans that there is a significant change in grade on the road that basically comes off of Orleans and then comes to behind the building, or comes to the new building. Mm-hmm. I guess my concern there is, how is, for example, snow and ice going to be, like what kinds of de-icers or whatever you're going to be using there? Because I assume that would be something that you would want to be cautious about, because it's the fact that it's an incline and it's a turn at the same time.
Sure. I mean, so I know Brandon, I'm sure you have restrictions on. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so as far as not concerned about what kinds of de-icers or sanding or anything you need to do in order to keep that safe and navigable for people.
Could you come up to the microphone for us, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, typically for our properties, we plow and maintain all the snow removal. There's some locations that will use salt, others, depending with the wells there, we typically don't.
Right.
So
Right. Okay. Thank you. With regards to the stormwater, in your report, you say that that you are not fully complying with the stormwater design handbook, because full compliance would mean doing work within the 100-year, within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. And, but that it sounded as if you didn't fully understand what the status of the infiltration basin, particularly the pipe leading out of it, was going to be, or the drain. So I was just wondering if you could talk to that, because that wasn't clear from the report, just what all was being involved in that. Particularly because this basin is serving as the main infiltration
Yeah,
area.
so stormwater is handled on the site in two manners. We have, I'll go over here. We have two infiltration trenches along the back, kind of the back side and the right side of this building here that's taking runoff from the roof.
Right.
And then for, kind of runoff from this side on and from the new access road that is being picked up by this riprap swale along here, and then moving to this existing detention basin. This pipe itself is really not changing here.
Right. So I guess my question is, well, yeah, I think it was when you were doing the recharge analysis that and I have to go, I don't remember exactly where it said, but basically there was some question as to how well you knew how well it was going to drain, because you didn't quite know fully the status, and that in order to know the status, you'd have to basically remove it and replace it or something like that. I don't remember.
To be honest, I'd have to go back to the report.
Okay.
And DPW's comments to that effect, we only got those a couple hours before this meeting, so we
Yes.
hadn't even had a chance to review them either. So
Yeah.
we'd have to go back and take a
Yeah,
look.
I think we all agree that we haven't had time to look them over, but I at least wanted to identify that that's an area of
Sure.
concern for me,
Okay.
and that if you were going to need to do work in that area to have a more realistic assessment of what you think the ability of that basin is going to have for recharge, for infiltration, to function effectively as infiltration, then that actually does not bother me as much, in part because there's already an existing building and work that was done within the 100-foot. And I think this is a pretty important question with regards to, is it going to function as it should? So that's my main question. Because in reading your report, at least, there was some question in my mind as to whether you fully understood what that was, whether it was or wasn't. Okay, so that'd be something I'd like to at least have explained a little bit more thoroughly. Okay. And then also you mentioned that there was a turtle plan approved in November by Natural Heritage. Is
Correct.
that this turtle plan that was
Correct.
attached?
The one that was provided as part of this application, that is correct.
So Natural Heritage has actually reviewed your plan, and
Correct.
they didn't mention the wood turtle
That
at
is,
all to
yeah,
you?
that is correct. That Blanding's turtle was the only species that they came back with as part of the
All right.
MESA review.
All right,
So
well-
I will say on that, the turtle protection plan, if it doesn't if it doesn't specifically say the wood turtle, before any construction or any site disturbance, our qualified biologist, which is a requirement of the state approved plan, is going to do a sweep of the site, and if we see any turtles, we're going to move them out of the way to make sure they're protected. So whether
Yeah.
it's Blanding's turtles or wood turtles, we're not going to leave any turtles that could be, of risk of being harmed.
Yeah, my main concern there would be that it be included in the materials that are being provided to the people who are not the biologists. Because there you have pictures of a Blandings, but you don't have pictures of a wood turtle. And so at a minimum, would like to see you include those as well, so that anybody who's on the site and sees something can recognize that this is something that we need to be concerned about.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah, I think to that, we would instruct basically to whoever's doing the work that if any turtle should be protected. So that I would stress that to them as well. Regardless if it's Blandings or woods, any turtle that is at risk of being harmed during construction should be moved out of the limits of work.
okay. Well, the reason that it makes a difference is because in part of your turtle protection plan, if you do find a Blandings, and I would add, or a wood turtle, and I would further add, if you happen to find a box turtle as well, possibly, then that would be something that you would have your biologist, do the typical measuring, weighing, photographs, stuff like that of a turtle, so that reports can be filed to Natural Heritage. So that's why it's important to include those as well. So I would just like some confirmation from you or from your designated biologist that you are aware that there are wood turtles there, that the habitat is also for the wood turtles, and that potentially also that he wants to be aware that there could possibly be a box turtle, although there are no recorded observations of a box turtle. There has been one oral report of that, which was a number of years ago by someone in the area, but it's not reported, so it's not official record.
Okay.
Okay.
Could I add something?
No, we're not at public comment yet.
She's
Oh,
from AECOM.
I'm with AECOM.
She has a flu, so she couldn't make it. She's from AECOM.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. She was supposed to be here today.
Sorry about that. Yeah, sure.
Hi, I'm Jillian Flanagan. I'm with AECOM. We also included in the turtle protection plan and as a requirement from NHESP that we do an annual report and the biologist would submit any records of any state listed turtle, regardless of its Blanding's turtle or not.
Okay, okay. That sounds good. I still would, if you could add the photos to what other people are seeing, I would feel more comfortable if you did that as well. And also, if there are any, I think I would like to, and this is entirely up to you, but I would like to be able to, that I understood from the turtle protection plan, there's a bi-weekly inspection. And I would be interested in getting a summary of that as well. And I think the conservation agent would also, just so that we can know like what the status of things are and how things are going. But again, that's not a requirement. That's not really within our jurisdiction. But I think that's something that we would be interested in following. And then the only last thing I have is that you're needing to work into a relatively sharp incline on the uphill side. And if I recall, when you were building the first plant, there was a significant amount of issues with the instability of the slope because of sand. And so I wanted to be sure that you were aware of that and that you were going to deal with that appropriately in terms of stabilizing it and so forth. So
Correct. Yeah, I'll point that out here.
yeah.
We'll actually be stabilizing the slope because it's more with, of course, as you know, because it is a steep slope here. You can see the ground.
Yeah.
This will be stabilized with riprap, all from that point to the start of the access road, all the way over here. So we have accounted for that here.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because it was unexpected, if I recall correctly, in the original plant, in the construction of the original plant. And so I wanted to be sure that you were aware of the corporate, the history of what has happened on the site, so you're aware that's a possibility. There'll be a lot of unstable slope because of sand.
Understood.
Okay.
I'm also from AECOM.
Oh,
Can
sure.
I just make a quick
Yeah.
comment regarding that? So to tell you the reason why we did have to steepen that up, because we did meet with the fire department earlier. They told us what we needed for a turning radius. So to get that turning radius, we had to increase the width there. So that's why, we have a slope that's steeper than we like, but we really have no choice. So that's why it's going to be riprap for stabilization. But that was the reason for it, not just that we wanted a wide road. We had to be able to get the ladder truck in there.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have right now.
Okay, John.
No questions. I also received communication from 2 residents regarding the turtles. I won't repeat what Mike and Joel have already, those points that have raised, but no questions at this time.
Okay. Deirdre?
I'm good.
Marcy?
No questions at this moment.
Sarita?
Yes. Well, just a few comments. I 100% agree with Mike and Joel's comments that they have, especially around the turtles. And I guess I have a question because I didn't get to read it thoroughly, but on the turtle protection plan, does it have time of when construction can start? Do you know?
Go ahead, Jillian.
Yes, so construction can start at any time. However, the turtle's active season is around April 15th, I believe, to November 1st. So if any work starts before April, once it hits the April 15th timeframe, then the inspections will start, and then they'll stop around November once the turtles are in their inactive season. And then if construction continues to next April, then the inspections will need to start again.
Okay, yeah, because I guess my concern is if construction's happening when they're not active, you're going to kill them. So, because they're hibernating into areas, so.
Yeah,
my
the
concern.
turtles will go into the marsh.
Yeah.
And this is out of the wetland area, so they would not be impacted in their hibernation.
Yeah, the wood turtles hibernate in the brook, actually.
Yeah.
Aren't there some
In the
that go
water.
into the, okay. I guess the other stuff that I have regarding is there is an awful lot of comments on the DPW's letter that they have. They actually mentioned exceeding the slope 3 to 1 to make sure there's stabilization. Is that riprap that they're talking about an acceptable form of stabilization on a steep grade? I don't know.
I don't know. It's something we would have to make sure that the DPW has a clean letter anyway, so.
Right.
Yeah, because on here it
Right.
just says stabilization, but I mean, I'm just curious about that. And then when you brought up the comments about stormwater, I know in their letter too, one of the standard 2 was not met. So that's something that's concerning.
Yep.
Because that's the one around peak rate control and flood protection. So just concerning that that's an issue.
Could I respond? Again, Steve DeFrancesco with AECom. As far as a slope, typical engineering practice is for slopes, if it's 3-to-1, you can just use grass. Once it gets to 2-to-1 or steeper, to 1.5-to-1, that's about the steepest we'll go. I mean, if it gets any steeper than that, you need a retaining wall. 2 to 1.5-to-1, riprap is engineering wise is an acceptable stabilization method, but we would never use just like a stabilization fabric and lumen seed if we're 2-to-1 or greater.
And what are you in that area that you have?
That's 1.5.
1.5 is the worst case.
Okay.
Right.
That's all I have right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And as I said, we have not had time to review DPW's comments, so we will.
Yeah,
do that.
there's a lot in there.
Yes.
All right, Anita, do you have any comments? Questions?
I do not.
Okay. I've got just a couple. Most of them were already covered. In addition to the DPW's note about no snow storage signs at the detention basin, I always like to typically have the snow the snow storage plan as part of the O&M as well. So a diagram in the O&M plan for where the snow can be stored.
Yeah, I'll just reference that here. So it's probably on another plan or another drawing, but this is the area we've identified as the snow storage area. For
Yeah.
that. And as Brandon said, the district takes care of their snow removal. Obviously, they're not going to put snow in the detention basin.
Yeah. But we do like to have it in there just in case there are contractors that are hired and things like that.
Absolutely.
And then the fire truck turnaround was mentioned on the fire department letter. So that's all. I don't have any other questions. So at this point, unless you have something else, we can open it up for public input.
Anything else?
Are there any members from the public who wish to speak? Come right up to the.
Frank Smart, 223 Riverneck Road. I am the most direct abutter to this project. In the first slide that was shown, the GIS map, could you please display that?
I'll bring it up. It's gonna take me another minute.
All right.
And Evan, for our next meeting, can you have those attached to the agenda as well? Thanks.
I forgot to ask that.
Yeah.
Is also, while we're waiting for that, is the heritage approval, is that included in the documentation
Yeah.
as well? Okay.
I forget what page it's on, but it's in
There's
there.
a lot of pages there.
I don't
know why it's not working.
Evan, it's the one that showed the footage.
Yeah, from the original presentation.
Yes.
It's not opening for some reason.
Pardon me?
It's not opening for some reason.
Technology.
Okay. The GIS map of my property is not accurate. It hasn't been for a certain amount of time. I believe my property is much closer to this. I don't know what level this presentation is at, because there was nothing mentioned about tree cutting.
Oh,
What's the height of the present building there? Does anybody have that?
It would have to be under 35 feet, I think.
Under 35 feet.
Here's the GIS map.
Okay, but you had a footage up there.
He can't open the
Can't open
presentation.
that one. So this is what we,
Yeah, that is not an accurate display of my property.
Which one is your property?
Right
That one?
I'm most direct, but you showed, it had the distance in here and everything.
Yep.
I think it was 230
I'm a
feet.
lot closer. At what, what shows my property, all the way out to here, down to the street, is not accurate. My property today is in here, goes back here, this way. And I just had it surveyed.
Do you have a stamped survey plan?
Not with me.
Would you be able to submit,
The water department, I believe, has it.
would you be able to, up here, Frank,
He's over here.
over
This
here?
way.
Oh,
The microphone, I know,
it's
the
louder
microphone.
back here. Chris, it's louder back here.
It does that
than
to
it is up
everyone.
here.
Would you be able to submit that plan to Evan so we could take a look at it?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
During this, I'm going to use the high-level presentation. There was nothing about tree cutting. And the question is, that I had just asked, how high is the present building? In all the maps, that I looked at in this presentation, all the drawings of the building, they just had the height of the cinder wall. They didn't say, okay, this is the peak of the building. Tonight I'm hearing now it's going to be less than 35, but there's nothing on the drawing. If they were to go through, because everybody's talking about this riprap and the slope of the land, if they cut property down, cut the trees down between my property and theirs to the building, it's going to be atrocious. I have nothing against the project. I don't want to be out in my yard, sitting by my pool, looking at the building. I'd like to see, from where it's proposed, where 35 feet's going to be when I'm in my yard. Joel had a good point about that corner. When they come down, there's riprap there today. On that, it's a steep slope and it's going to curve left. There's actually a telephone pole right there too. It's steep. I'd like to see this whole building move down a bit, so there'd be less cutting back here. I know this is a boundary line. Look at this boundary line. I'd like to see this come down a bit, so there would be less cutting where my property is, probably right in this area here. There's nothing I see, that's just the projected tree line. You know, why does it have to be up this way? Why can't we just move it down? I'd also like to see, they have a paved driveway here. If they move this down, and they could come this way, move this up. What are those thoughts? But I'm really concerned about the cutting along here. Lighting on the building. On this side, my house is right here. I must admit, the water department and I are great neighbors. We have worked hand in hand. I've been here for 48 years. Been through many superintendents. It's not that I just want to protect the view. That's all.
Thank you. It was actually a question I had earlier that I forgot to ask. For the engineers, how many trees would be cut down from this project?
Is there an existing state drawing too?
I don't think I saw one.
Yeah, we have not done a tree count out there to determine. I mean, you can see what the clearing limits are. You know, and to answer some of those questions, the plant is there because we're trying to stay out of a wetland resource area. So, you know, if you tell us to push it in the wetlands, to move it, but no one's ever told us to do that before. And then we also don't go around with the road because we have to get a fire truck. You know, we really looked at all of the property that was over there, and this was the only place we could find to put that plant.
Okay, thank you.
But are you gonna do a tree count?
I don't think it was a requirement, so we were not going to do it.
Okay, are there any other members of the public who wish to speak?
My name's Jeff. I am very interested in purchasing a property that's going to be directly impacted by the project here. Again, I want to emphasize, not against the project. I just have a few questions and confirmation of what was said earlier today. You said that there was going to be 0 lights on the building. So we can assume a building of that size that was stated is going to have 0 lights on it.
Could you address the board, please?
That was what's said. I just want to make sure if it's 0, then it's 0. But if it's not, I'd like to be brought up maybe motion activated lights, because at the property I'm interested in purchasing, you can very easily see existing lights today, which is the new project will be substantially closer.
I believe it was minimal.
I believe on the project it said 0. So
okay, we'll get
precision matters here.
Mm-hmm.
You said that no additional traffic, but if you could emphasize or articulate, you said just earlier the turning radius. I would just ask the turning radius of what? If there's no additional traffic, nothing is having
Could you address the board, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It would be the fire trucks, the turning radius of the fire trucks, which is a requirement for the fire department review.
Okay. And I guess it was questioned that there was, Mr. Smart talked about moving it, I guess, lower here. I don't know the cardinal direction, but there's still plenty of room before you hit that flood line. We're not asking it to go into the flood line as the other building, the existing building, is in it already, but just closer. You could alleviate a number of trees there and increase that, the barrier. It also was said that there is 0 noise or no noise. The existing plant does have noise, so if it's going to have a hum, that's fine. We just want to know what it's going to be. So I just think some precision language here would be appreciated.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members?
Dale Crandall, representing 243 River Neck Road. For those you don't know, that my property previously had a 40B approved comprehensive permit on it, and been direct butters. I've owned the property for 24 years. So we have a pending project, as the boards may know, that's an appeal in town that we won. The town has appealed us to do a lesser development over there than what the previous developer had done, which we thought was a friendly lip program, to end up not being friendly.
Are you talking to the microphone, please?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. So my question, obviously, the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars my family spent, my developer, we would like to ask whoever could answer this question, what impact it will have on the abutters, not just myself, the abutters' rights to, and property rights to develop the property. Where the wells would be, I know there's a certain 400 feet that, because they came to me at one time, not long ago, when they got a grant stating that they wanted, and they contacted me, I didn't contact them, and they said, we'd like to buy the acreage that I lost, and I know Mr. Luna would know this. I also would, my other question is we had to do a full study that I had to spend $72,000 on to see where the turtles migrated. I lost 6.5 acres of my property. That's gone forever. So my question is, was there everything ordered just because it's the town of Chelmsford and the water department? They're not above the law of anybody else. So was this ever ordered by conservation or anyone? You're taking their word on their turtles. How would they migrated 6 acres onto my property in their building but not onto theirs? They're redeveloping. Maybe they were grandfathered in before. So that would be my thing. But my first question would be, what kind of impact is this, if any, and if it's any, I would like to know what the impact is going to be on my rights as a developer with a pending project that I have now, and spent $1 million on. So I would like that answered. And also, when do you expect to break ground on this, the time frame, and when do you expect target completion date? And I would take it that we would be sent any notices or any decisions at the state and local level. Maybe you could answer that, similar to the letter that I got as an abutter as a trustee tonight. So if someone could be kind enough to answer any of those questions I asked, I'd appreciate it.
So I can take a first stab at the rights question, and Evan can correct me if I'm wrong. But what they're doing here should have no impact on your ability to do anything on your property. The two issues are completely separate and not relevant to each other.
Okay, sir, but could I have them? They're the experts, right? They did the whole project. They know what things are laid out. I want to make sure that they're far enough away from my property that they don't say, they're too close, you can't build there because our well needs 400 feet buffer zone.
They're not doing they're not doing work to the wells. It's an additional building for
Right,
PFAS
and you're not
filtration.
drilling any new wells,
Nope.
correct? You're using
Nope.
the existing wells that are there?
Mhm.
Okay, well, that has
Yep,
changed. since-
it's just an
understand.
additional building for
Okay, thank
PFAS
you.
filtration.
Gotcha.
In terms of the turtles, I can take a stab, and Joel can correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe most of that regulation and those requirements come from the state and not from the local boards. There might be some jurisdiction on Conservation Commission if there's building in the buffer zone. But in this case, there is no building in the buffer zone, so there is no Conservation Commission jurisdiction. Did I get the
Yep,
turtle
that's right. That's
question
right.
correct? Okay. And then I think you had one more question about notice. If this project is approved, then they are able to file for permits and things like that with the town. No other abutter notice is required. And they can probably answer the question about the timeline. So
Just I'm sorry, just one more thing. So we would get notifications over this hearing if the board decides here, or if it gets continued, and we
Yeah.
obviously will get that
we'll
decision.
we'll
whether
either
you
be
approve-
voting tonight,
Okay.
likely not.
Okay.
Or we'll continue to the next meeting.
Gotcha.
And
Understood.
you will get
Okay,
updated on that.
thank you for that, thank you. Yes.
You want us to answer?
Sure, if you could.
So as far as the timeline for this project, it's going to be about a year behind the Crooked Springs project. So the Crooked Springs project, we broke ground there in about August of, just past
Yeah,
August.
I drove by it, yep.
So this one should be this coming August. We're under the bidding process right now, but we're getting state revolving loan funds, so we have to go through the whole state process, which does take some time. So I'd expect that we'd finally have a contract awarded, starting about August of 2026, and it's a 2-year duration for the project.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, board, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Any on Zoom? No. Okay, any follow-up questions or comments from the board?
I have a quick one. Can you go back to the picture with the trees? And could you guys step up and on here, can you show me where the building's going on this view?
Approximately in this area here, if you take the kind of the corner of this building. Right about there.
So it does look like, I mean, from what I can see, there's going to be pretty significant mature tree loss when they're putting this building in, and I don't think there was any discussion on that. I know that's a big concern of mine. I mean, I don't know that they could replant anywhere else, but we've had discussions before over that type of thing happening and what we would do for it. But, I mean, those are pretty big.
And this is just outside of the wetland buffer zone?
Yep.
All right, and what is the Concom's feeling on like the amount of tree loss that potentially is there just outside of the buffer zone, or are they not?
They don't have any jurisdiction
Okay.
or comment on it.
All right.
We can.
I'm just asking if they,
But I know on the existing, because I kind of took a scroll through, on the existing state, I didn't see anything pointing out like the existing tree stuff. I think I saw existing soils, but I don't think there's like they said, they didn't do a tree count because it wasn't required.
Typically, it doesn't always have to happen. It depends on the project. Anything else? Any other members of the board have follow-up questions or comments?
Not here.
All right, so I think we're in a position to continue this meeting or continue the hearing to the next meeting. I think you probably need to review the letters. I think the fire truck turnaround plans would be added.
You know what, I'm sorry, can I add one more thing?
Sure.
I mean, I guess the tree seems like it's a significant concern of several of the board, and I guess I would like to ask that the project developers look at what trees are gonna come down, and if there's any, you know, if they could do an approximation of the number and the types of trees, and if there's any way that tree removal action could be mitigated in some way, if there's any other areas on the property where native trees could be planted, or some other mitigating approach could be taken, and particularly if it would help with the view shed from the abutters.
Okay.
Thank you.
So then, additional work on the O&M plan for the snow storage plan. Deirdre mentioned the potential count of tree loss and what types of general trees would be lost. I would also like to see the positioning of the building on the GIS map, just an overlay, just to help us with some of the positioning, because it was really difficult to figure out where the property lines were on some of those planned designs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys could just take the GIS picture and overlay the location of the building and the driveway. Also, what would help is, I think, looking at the building height, the wall of the building looks to be about 22, and then you've got the roof in addition. So it definitely looks like it's under 35 feet. Could you also give us a rendering of the two buildings together, or some diagram that has the two buildings? So that way we can compare what the new building would be in relation to the current building. It'll give us some perspective.
And in the context of the topography and the tree.
And then, can anyone think of any other things we would need for that next meeting?
The more detailed discussion about the infiltration basin as to what its status is and remediation or
Making sure those pictures get included that he was asking for the
You
turtles.
talk in the microphone.
and that too.
Yeah, the pictures that Joel was asking for being added.
Yep.
For the turtles.
Yep, that too. All right. Any other questions, comments? Any closing thoughts from the applicant?
There was several questions, I think someone was recording them here, from the from the public. Will those be emailed to us also for us to address? We have no problem addressing them. I didn't jot down every one. I figured someone up here would be recording that.
Well, the video is recorded, so
Okay.
if you want to go back on Chelmsford Telemedia,
Okay.
you can take a look at the recording.
All right, because we can address those.
I've made some notes, but I don't have the specific questions.
All right.
All right, I will
Take
entertain a
To
motion.
continue to the, should we do this for the 28th? Is that the next meeting?
Next meeting is the 28th of January.
I move to
Before you
continue
do,
this public hearing.
Mike, before you do, if we continue this to January 28th, would you be able to get all of the materials to us beforehand?
We would certainly shoot, I think we can.
Okay, I just want to make sure we give you enough time.
Anything that, I'm saying, that's going to be difficult
Okay,
to get, so.
all right,
So
excellent.
28th it is, and I guess you can let us know if something comes up and you can't get all the material.
Motion by Mike,
Second.
second by Deirdre, and we do a roll call. Mike,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Deirdre,
Aye.
Marcy,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. And we are continued to January 28th on this hearing. Thank you, everyone. All right, next item on the agenda.
Zoning 2.0.
Yes.
Yes.
Your favorite topic.
All right, let me gather my things. So next item up on the agenda is our zoning public hearing. For the purposes of receiving public comment to amend a number of zoning areas. I am not going to read them all because we will be covering it in the slides. The way that I'm planning on presenting these is that we will go through these in the order that I hope to be presenting them in town meeting. And in the batches that I hope to be presenting them in town meeting. For example, all of the SAOD potential changes will be in one article. All of the new definition of bed and breakfast and the addition in the use table would be in another article. So you'll see that format as we go through the slides. Okay. And what I'm also going to do is, for each article, I want to stop and pause and take comments and questions. I'm not going to do all of them and then do the questions and comments. I think it'll be easier to follow.
From the board, from the public as well? or-
Yes, both.
Okay.
Yeah. That way, everything's fresh in our minds
I
as we
agree.
go through it.
I agree.
All right, so the first one, amending the town code for the SAOD overlay. Wrong one, Evan. Yep, that's it. All right, so the first one is a few different sections. Revising by right project information, use regulations to provide clarity, performance standards A and B to require compliance with Article 7, the application procedures to add a term, and then some clarification in 119BD and 119D to add a new item. So the first one is the applicability, and the proposed additional language is underlined here for the project involving a change of use from one category to another. The gross square footage and the square footage of the footprint of the building of the use does not exceed the original use. So both conditions would have to be met for this to trigger.
Did you want to comment?
Nope, we're gonna go
Okay.
through all the
Okay.
SAID stuff first. The next one,
Hold your fire.
Apparently.
use regulations. For this one, we are adding the underlined sentence. And this was related to the discussion we were having about potential combinations of uses. And essentially, from our last discussion, I did add the word primary uses, so that it's more related to primary uses as opposed to a secondary use
Yep.
added to a primary use. And so this is related to some of the discussions we're having about residential uses not necessarily being compatible with some other uses in the overlay. Performance standards. This one is one of the suggestions from Joel a couple of years ago, actually, where we were discussing some of the environmental topics related to 270 Billerica, I believe, and really wanting to have a little bit more teeth in the bylaws to require some documentation and technical evidence when we're dealing with potential environmental impacts when it's commercial and industrial abutting residential. Same thing on the next one. So this one is related to general.
Has that been run by the previous one? Has that been run by, oh, sorry. Never mind, I'll hold my fire.
And then this one's related to special permits. So the first one was general projects, and this one's special permits. Same wording, just added in whole sections. Application review procedures, just adding a term, a building or structure, for clarification. You can go to the next one. This one is related to wanting a little bit more detail in the project narratives. When we discussed projects coming before us, really asking them to provide the evidence that they're meeting the standards. So that's what this is adding in here, that they're required to provide the detailed evidence, and not us asking for it every time.
Sweet.
The next one, application review procedures. The addition of 5 is on this one. Substantial changes to a stormwater system or site elevation would be yet another trigger for a modification requiring a hearing. And that is it for the SAID changes. Questions or comments from the board? I'm not going to do a round robin.
Have they gone, has all this gone and been reviewed by town council?
No, not yet.
That will be forthcoming once we decide what we want to have
Yep.
them say?
Yep.
So can we go through these one at a time?
Sure.
So 195, 111, applicability. Yeah, and I don't know exactly who was the author of this, but I know I had this idea. So my thinking on this one, at least, I don't know if this is from anything I did or said, but my thinking on this one is that this is an example where you have, Mercury's a perfect example, where you have a building that is reasonably sizable and it has 2 floors, and so your gross square footage is, basically double the footprint, essentially. But then if you come in and you bring in a warehouse where you only have one story, then you essentially have halved your gross square footage. And so you're not capturing essentially, essentially they have the same gross, if they have the same gross square footage, then that means they essentially have double the footprint. And that's what this was trying to capture, was those cases where.
Scale of the building.
Yeah, yeah, to not get caught up in the idiosyncrasies of the gross square footage computation, to then overlook a potential massive increase in a building because of the way you compute it. So I think it's a great addition.
Do you think the verbiage, though, that's used here captures what you were trying to do?
Yeah, because it's that you're including the square footage of the footprint. So there you're capturing just how much, if essentially what you're doing coming in with a warehouse is that you are essentially have the same volume, but you have half the square footage, gross square footage, then you want to capture any sort of increase by the footprint, not by the gross square footage. Yeah.
So the gross
Because
square
we don't have volume, right? We don't.
Right, but you're
use volume.
equating gross square footage and volume, so it's like the length times the width times the height.
Gross square footage is just how many floors you have, times the area of that floor, right? So if you can have a building that's exactly the same size.
No, I get that,
Okay,
but I don't
yeah.
understand how you fix it. I
you
get the
fix it
problem
by-
you're trying to fix, but
Yeah.
I'm not confident.
Maybe we should be doing it by volume,
Well, that's what I
not
just.
by floor. Yeah.
Yep, volume would be another way to do it, yeah. But then you'd have to define what the volume is and the
The
computation of it
length
is. and
times
I
the
don't-
width times the height.
Yeah, but I don't think Evan, we don't do any volume
No,
calculations.
and I don't think anybody does.
Well, is
Right.
there a way to do that?
I mean, I'm sure there is, it's not very
Maybe,
traditional.
Joe, maybe if we just did, like, took an example and did the math out, I think we'd be able to, I'm more of a visual person than a numbers person. If we can, like, maybe for our next meeting, just have the math and show how this works, that would be, I think, useful to visualize it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting when you're talking about making it smaller, like a warehouse versus the double, but what happens if it goes the other direction? So now you have the warehouse, which is less gross square footage. It's the same footage as the building footprint. Are they then allowed to do more outside? Like, I'm trying to understand the other direction.
It's essentially where before we had one constraint, which was the gross square footage. Now we're also adding the building footprint as a constraint. And those two constraints will control basically it to the size that you want. But if you only leave it at gross square footage, then you could have significant increases in footprint.
So I guess I'm getting stuck up on the and, because it's,
Because you want both restrictions. You want
Yeah,
to
but if
apply
there's a
to both.
change in or, I think I agree with three.
because I'm just trying to get, because it's, if there's one change or the other is changing, that's when you want to, because I'm trying to, I'm getting caught up with the word.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Visual, I agree with me.
Well, yeah, but I understand what you're saying, but that's the predicate, that's the condition. If there's a change, whatever, the predicate is then, what you want to ensure is that you restrict the gross square footage. And we're saying also, you also want to restrict the building footprint. So your predicate is both things. And so when you logically combine things together, where you have both, you use and, you don't use or. Because then it could be you satisfy one or you satisfy the other, but you don't have to satisfy both. This is you need to satisfy both. And so that's why it's an and. If that makes any sense.
And I'm getting, it doesn't, I'm like lost.
So,
I can do
right, let me
a
just-
little diagram or something. That
Yeah.
might help.
That'd be good.
that'd help. Okay, I'll leave it at that. If you
Okay.
do the diagram, that'll be
We're
helpful.
very
But
visual.
But I would be hesitant to use volume, and the only reason is because even when you look at definitions of gross square footage and building footprint, they get very involved as far as what you count, what you don't count, blah, blah, blah. And so going with volume, especially when nobody else does it, no one's going to understand what that is. And so everybody understands what footprint is. Everybody understands what gross square footage is. Let's go with that.
Volume is like third grade geometry.
It is, but when you actually
Not anymore.
not in zoning, exactly, not in zoning. I mean, look at the definitions for gross square footage. do you count the walls? Do you not count the walls? Is it inside? Is it outside? Inside dimensions, outside dimensions. What are you counting? It's like, I don't want to get involved in that.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So Joel, do a diagram for the next meeting on this.
I can kind of see it, like I'm imagining the slices.
Okay, are we gonna do anything about 12?
I think that one looks good.
Fine.
So what was this? I just was drawing a blank onto why we were asking for this. I mean, it sounds good, but I just
So
couldn't
this
remember
one
why.
was where we potentially may have two by right uses
You're gonna put
that
together.
individually sound great, but then potentially together may cause a problem,
Right.
depending on the project.
Like a kindergarten and a wood chipper factory.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That was the good one. That's a good one.
And we've had some discussions about some projects fairly recently that
Kind of did this.
had some potential issues. So that's where this one came from.
Yeah.
So we wanted to at least have the opportunity to discuss the combination of uses as opposed to just having it by right.
That makes sense. All right, so the next two, this was a comment when I first came on. It really wasn't tied to 270. It was just in general that all this is really doing is it's just giving the board the ability to ask for this information. It's not to say that we will ask for it, but if we do ask for it, an applicant say, no one's ever asked me for this. Where does it say in your bylaws you can ask for this? And so we would point to this and say, here we can ask for it. So a good example of this would be, an example of when you might want to do this was in the case of the car wash, where we had a generator, potentially was noisy, there was going to be, they gave assurances to the board that we didn't actually need to measure noise at the boundaries because of the extra insulation they were using. The board was satisfied with that, and I thought that was very reasonable.
And we have a noise bylaw.
Yeah, but
That they
it
had
would
to
be a
comply
case of where if we were, like, say, for example, in that case, if they weren't providing it and we had concerns about what the noise was going to be for the senior living next door, then we would have them do some sort of, measurement or something like that, evaluation or whatever is technically possible. Then we could ask for that and they would go, okay. So that's really all it's meant to do.
Can you explain how you'd apply it to water quality and air quality?
Not as easily because noise is the main one that we've ever encountered.
Well, it was the turtles on Brick Kiln.
Well, Article 7, Article 8 doesn't include doesn't include turtles and stuff like that.
The noise application makes some sense to me.
Yeah. But there's also air
But
quality.
you got
and
water,
also-
you got water and air quality
Yeah.
listed as well.
Yeah.
So
Think about
Maybe
that one.
measured by
I'm struggling as
similarities.
to how you would apply it and to what extent you would apply it.
Could you ask for some sort of calculations off of things that they're thinking to have in a similar situation and then add that to existing conditions to see outcome? I mean,
Right now, your water quality is regulated by stormwater, and
Right.
you have no authority under air quality.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm trying to figure out again, noise, there's a direct connection between a proposed project and impacts. I'm just trying to understand how and why the board would pursue water quality or air quality.
Right. Well, I can
So,
take,
as written, it covers the entirety of
entire-
Article,
yeah, right.
of Article 8.
right.
Which then goes into solid waste, a variety of things, and then number 40 is erosion control. So some of these, I'm not sure if the board intended to try to apply all of Article 8 or just specific
Yeah.
sections of Article 8.
but it says may require, so just because it's there as an option.
I can
doesn't
take
mean
the
you
action
do
because
it.
if you're thinking, do we want to restrict it to noise or do we just,
Yeah, if you're gonna contemplate or consider applying it to water quality and air quality, I think we need to figure out
just what that
exactly what does that
means.
mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I'll take the action to look into that, and it may be that that's just not a doable thing, in which case, okay.
And you do know that we ideally need to close this public hearing next
week.
Next
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay. Thank you. Application review procedures?
Yeah, I was wondering what was being envisioned there as far as structure.
I think this
adding
was one of
structure.
your suggestions from a couple of years ago.
I think it may have come out of Hildreth, where there was a stone wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, but structure wouldn't include stone wall,
Um,
according to our definition of structure, right?
You're right.
It
We have
depends.
all, we had,
But more relevant is that definitive subdivision doesn't come through SAYOD.
Right.
You can leave structure in there. I guess some stone walls under our zoning definition of structure may qualify as a structure. However, I just want to kind of caution, it's very easy for staff to identify a building over 75 years old,
right,
regardless of whether it's shown on the plan or not. As you know from experience, not all stone walls in other associated structures are shown on plans.
Right.
So staff may not catch that.
Yeah. Well, the stone wall in our definition of structure has to be over 4 feet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
most stone walls, I don't think are
Right,
quite
right,
4 feet.
Right. So I think this came from Hildreth.
But it allows us to have that ability that if it is caught, and if there is one in existence, then.
Yeah, if this pertains specifically to stone walls, again, if you try to play that out, I don't know to what extent the planning board through zoning is gonna be able to protect a stone wall. You know, if it goes through the middle of the property, and that's where the building envelope is, and that's where a parking lot or building has to be located. I'm just trying to envision, what's the legal application? So it's good, you know, it's one thing to require the information to be on a plan, which you currently do. And then this is basically saying, well, you know, now we're gonna send structures to the historical commission. I just don't know what the board's gonna do with that information. If you're the historical commission, you're likely gonna say, yeah, we wanna protect it.
I would think so.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I just don't, legally, certain walls don't have legal protections. If they're not property boundaries, they don't have
Right,
legal protections.
Right. Yeah, I guess my point is that if we're gonna go with this, then we need to understand that this will not protect stone walls that are less than 4 feet.
Yeah,
Because they
exactly.
will not, by the definition of structure, be a structure.
Right.
So, that's all.
There are potentially other structures
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
we
right.
don't know
For sure.
about,
Right.
so.
Yeah, I'm not saying not to have it, I'm just saying that we don't be surprised then when there's a 3-foot stone wall and we cite this and they say, well, no, it's not a structure.
Well, it'd also be hard to tell the age of those things sometimes, right? Because there's no
Right.
permit required.
Well, in the case of Hildreth, there was a documented history of the wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was actually through records that dated way back when they were handwriting them in cursive. Which is the most amazing thing.
There was a retaining wall in the, behind the Santander on the, whatchamacallit, Grist Mill 2, that was raised as an objection, and wasn't historic, it turned out. Like, someone was able to discern that, I don't know who, I forget, but,
Yeah.
Well, at some point, 75 years, you'll be able to see what the pictures on the internet.
yeah.
Great.
Go back to those
We'll
JS
keep moving.
mapping.
All right.
So this one, any questions, comments on this one?
Where are we? Sorry, I'm lost.
119,
Okay, that's what I thought.
Related to applicability.
Right.
asking for the narrative details. All right, next one. Substantial changes to the stormwater and site elevation. Any questions, concerns with this
I
one?
have a question. What's the definition of substantial?
Good question. It's
We
a
don't know
judgment
yet.
call, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it's a
But
judgment
it is
call.
used in the next one that's already in there.
It's like minor modification. There's some judgment there. One question I had about this, so I'll just mention it, we don't have to discuss it because it's not really relevant to this, and that is that we don't really encompass a change of site condition, which is what 270 was. That basically, we learned in the process that the site itself was not as we thought it was. We thought it was clean, turns out it was contaminated. So none of our regulations are going to take into account the fact that the site itself, there's some aspect of the site, particularly with regards to contamination, becomes known or not known. So it can't address that here, but just in general, at some point, we'd like to find a way
I
to
think on
address that.
certain sites since 270, you've put special conditions in there. That if contamination is found, it must come back to the board.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah, we have done
that would be
that.
a way. of handling
I
it.
forget which
Okay.
project we did that on, but I think we did it on at least one of them.
Okay.
Well, I mean, might not be a bad, I mean, maybe it's hard to identify when there's gonna be a determination of contamination, but might not be a bad idea to have that just as standard,
Just saying a condition.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments from the board on this one? If not, I will open it up if anyone has public input on that article. Anyone on Zoom?
No.
Okay. Moving on. This one is.
Titillating nature of zoning.
This one is to change the zoning table for essentially changing the approving board or the approving unit from the ZBA to the planning board for parking, garage, and structure. It's the commercial line 16 parking garage / structure. See, there's the structure again. If it's a 75-year-old parking garage, it might be historic. It aligns with the accessory parking garages that we have in the industrial, and then the recently added accessory parking lots, commercial and industrial. So all of those approving boards would be the planning board.
Yeah, speaking of which, can we ask the Historical Commission for a list of historic structures that they're aware of?
Well, they have a list.
Do they have a list?
They do, yeah.
I mean, we have all the buildings documented. Accessory structures, I'm not sure we have them all documented.
Okay, so just deal with it when it comes up.
Maybe
If
they
it
have a
comes up.
starting list.
We can inquire.
Back on this one.
Sorry.
Sorry. ADHD's kicking in.
I did reach out to the ZBA, have not heard back to see if they're okay with it. I let them know, but I have not heard back, so.
Should our ZBA liaison bring that up with them?
Sure.
It's Anita, right?
Yeah.
Anita?
But I did email Brian directly.
Which is the best way.
So. So, any questions, comments on this one? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this one? All right, moving on. The next one is changing the dimensional tables, the various dimensional tables in our zoning that have the minimum depth of 0 to NA. Because minimum depth of 0 is essentially no depth, no minimum required.
But why?
And so all of these are the changes.
Why is it 0, or why are we changing
Why
it?
are we changing it? It seems like if it's the same thing.
Consistency.
It's the
There's
difference.
other places
It's the
that-
difference between null and 0. If you do any programming at all, it's a big difference.
Oh, okay.
Big difference.
This is housekeeping because some places it's 0, some places it's
So just
NA.
clear.
Yeah.
So the question came up last time we were doing this, so to prevent future questions,
I'm just curious what type of questions will come up at your meeting.
can only imagine.
I'll be around for this one this time.
All right. Any public wish to speak on this change? Moving on. You can skip ahead, Evan.
Boarding house?
Yep. All right, for this one, it's to revise the definition of boarding house. This came out of a follow-up discussion I had with someone from the last town meeting. They realized that the current definition of boarding house overlaps a bit with the new family definition in terms of household numbers and things like that. So what I did is I looked at the state definition of a boarding house. So the current definition is really related to a single housekeeping unit. Occupants may share bathroom or kitchen facilities. So a lot of that has some overlapping and confusing aspects with the family definition. So what I did is I looked at the state definition, looked at a couple other towns, and came up with this newer version. So it's essentially replacing the entire definition. So facility licensed under the state general laws, which temporary or semi-permanent lodging is provided for rent to 4 or more lodgers who do not live together as a single housekeeping unit and who occupy individual rooms. Occupants may share bathroom or kitchen facilities, but such shared use does not constitute a single housekeeping unit. Occupancy is on an individual room basis with separate agreements or fees. The building does not contain self-containing dwellings and is not considered a single-family, two-family, or multifamily dwelling. So it provides a little bit more clarity with some of the other potentially overlapping uses.
What are individual dwelling units? Shall not contain individual dwelling units.
Well, a unit has to have a
typically have
bathroom and a kitchen.
Yeah.
Self-contained apartments.
Okay, thank you.
So someone could not come in under a boarding house definition if they have separate
Right,
apartments.
right. Okay. And one question I had, which was a question I think I recall from town meeting, which was a concern with the family definition of, like a fraternity living next door that, fits under that definition, and they were concerned about a bunch of 20-year-olds living together and doing what 20-year-olds do. So this, I don't know that this entirely captures that, but I was just curious if that comes up, what our response to that would be.
So that is addressed, when I looked at the state definition, part of the state definition does exclude fraternity houses, but then we would have to define fraternity houses.
Right.
Other towns have addressed it by the occupancy is on an individual room basis with separate agreements or fees. Fraternity houses do not have that.
Okay.
Although they certainly could structure themselves so that they
They
did.
could.
They could.
They could. But if it's
They wanted to get around this.
if it's a national fraternity, they probably wouldn't put a local one. But I mean, I don't know if Chelmsford is like a hotbed of fraternities and sororities.
How many fraternities do we have?
Rats are gonna be around here.
I mean, you must
Right next to
know,
Lowell,
okay,
so.
but
Yeah, because I was looking at that too, and you talk about like, you get a bunch of college kids who want to rent, right on the Chelmsford side of the Lowell Chelmsford line. You got, there's 4 bedrooms, but 5 of us are going to rent there. Then, it's not like they're looking to run a boarding house. They're just kids trying to, how does.
Yeah, but in those cases, the landlords typically don't have individual leases. It's one lease that they co-sign.
okay, thank you.
Frat house on a future project.
They're not
I guess,
close. I don't think we're
public-
close enough to
public
West Lowell for
input on
that,
that
so.
Yep. Any members of the public wish to speak on this one? None. Okay, on to the next one. Bed and breakfast. This also came up at the last town meeting, where someone suggested that it might be a good idea to add a bed and breakfast as a use, since we do have hotels, motels, boarding houses. And so thought it might be a good idea. Since we didn't have it defined, we might want to define it.
And then do we want to say where it is?
Yep, that's the next part.
Yep.
So the definition is a pretty standard, again, based on the state definition, and also excluding other defined unit or definitions that we have. And then for the use table, I looked at the similar uses for boarding houses, motels, and hotels to see where they are located. Tried to match that, essentially the motel, hotel mapping. And then also added the RC. Thought that maybe the multifamilies, depending on how they're structured or renovated, potentially have an opportunity for a bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about the RM, why that was a no. I would have thought that would be a planning board.
We could do that one too.
Which one?
RM.
RM?
RM.
RM? I wasn't sure why I would exclude that. It would be interesting to hear in the public hearing whether people are interested in RA or RB having it as well.
I wasn't, initially I wasn't considering the residential areas. Evan had suggested the RC. Evan, do you want to, I liked your reasoning.
Yeah, I mean,
when you
just
talked to me
simply
about it.
because RC are the traditional neighborhoods within close proximity to Vinyl Square and Center Village.
Makes sense.
It also has a lot of historic houses that are large. But yeah, they're within walking distance of the centers.
I have seen those though, and they get ridiculous with parking. But I guess if it comes to the planning board, that would have to be a consideration
Oh,
for
yeah,
parking.
definitely.
Because it's something that happens now where they have old agreements and allowing multiple people residing, and it's a cluster.
Yeah, and that's why it would come before us.
Which at least you have the opportunity.
Yeah. Anita, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't know, RC is still very residential. I'm not sure how people are gonna feel about this. I'm not sure whether, like a single-family neighborhood, even though it's zoned RC and it's close to the center, would feel about having an Airbnb next door.
Well, B&B and Airbnb aren't the same, really, in my mind, at all. Airbnb's short-term rental, that's pretty much not allowed.
So a bed and breakfast, I believe, is
But it's-
under state law, is a lodging facility, which
like a
requires
hotel.
some sort of state licensing, maybe local licensing.
Like a boutique hotel.
Airbnb, some communities have required licensing. In Chelmsford, the zoning determination has been you cannot operate Airbnb in a residential zoning district because it's a commercial business.
Yeah. It's less, what was
But
it, less
so
than 30
isn't,
days?
then, so isn't it, but isn't it then best, it's lodging, right? So isn't that commercial? Like, it's still
It's like-
some sort of,
It
like,
would be, it would
enterprise.
be. Right now, a
So-
bed and breakfast is not permitted because it's not listed, not a listed use. So what the board's contemplating
Right,
is
so-
making it a listed use.
Right, and it's still lodging, and it's still short-term lodging. It's, so again, RC is still residential, and there's a lot of single-family neighborhoods, and I'm not sure how those people are gonna feel about having lodgers coming in and out on a short-term basis. I'm not in favor of that. I'm a no on that.
Yeah.
Good point.
Even if it's a special permit?
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're not gonna allow like the other, yeah.
Well, keep in mind that we do have boarding houses allowed by special permit. Actually, by the zoning board.
In RC? What about
In
RM?
RC, RB, RA,
Yep.
RM.
And I just don't see that being very popular. I don't know. I don't.
Seems like there's more regulations around a bed and breakfast than a boarding house. So at least if it was a bed and breakfast versus the other, you'd have a little bit more control.
Yeah, it's state licensed.
But to Jill's point too, I don't get why RM's not, if RC was. But then I'm also questioning, because if Anita's bringing this up, how many people during the town meeting are going to object? And then does that shut this one down completely? Is it two-phased?
Yeah,
or
I
do
just think we should
partial?
pick our battles,
Right, 'cause
right? Like
You can always have a friendly amendment. If somebody wants to include or exclude, they can
Different
propose
zones.
that at town meeting. And
Like
if,
Anita wants a
and
friendly
if Chris
amendment.
accepts it,
I mean, what do the board members think?
I'm okay with striking it out of RC.
I like the idea of the definition getting in and getting in front of people.
Mhm.
And I think for less conflict on the first runaround, if you didn't include it in RC or RM, a lot more people would probably be in favor of it
Mhm.
versus potential confrontation.
Mhm.
Could you go after changing it at, the next? I mean, because it would be nice. I mean, this is a thing where it would be good to have control a little bit more of these areas and allowing it if we wanted or not, depending on what's around it. But, how do you want to run it for the meeting?
So
Well,
if
I mean, I
other-
think we get introduced to the concept of, do we even get any bed and breakfast in town?
Yeah.
Once we, and then we can see, is it seem like it's something we want more of or not?
All right, so if other members of the board are okay with it, I will take that advice, since that's the same advice I gave Kelly on the lighting bylaw. I will take that same advice and take baby steps for introducing the bylaws. All right, so I will remove the RC zone.
Okay, perfect.
All right, any members of the public wish to speak on this one?
Kelly Beatty, 117 Park Road. Just something from the peanut gallery. In listening to this discussion, I think you ought to treat boarding houses, bed and breakfasts, and Airbnbs with the same set of standards. Because as Anita's been pointing out, they all have the same business model. It's a commercial entity in the middle of a residential area.
Thank you. I actually was contemplating adding boarding house adjustments on this one, but because of the number of articles that we have, it might be more prudent to do it the next town meeting. But thank you, Kelly. I was considering that. All right. Any other questions on those? I think we're now at the lighting bylaw. So for this one, I will ask Kelly Beatty to come up, and if you remember, we had some discussion at the before the last town meeting about the lighting bylaw. There were some last minute changes. We ended up pulling it at the last minute. I worked with Kelly to take another look at it. Asked him to separate out the commercial and industrial from the residential, make it simpler, make it a recommendation for residential, and requirements for industrial and commercial. Took another look at it. I think it's a really simplified, clean version. Kelly's going to walk through some of the slides, and then we can have a discussion. The bylaw itself is a little bit lengthy, so we didn't include it in the slides, but it is in the attached document. Kelly.
Thank you. Kelly Beatty, 117 Park Road, back before you again. The bylaw that we proposed at the last Springtown meeting was, what's the word I'm looking for? Aggressive in its scope, in attempting to rein in everything that could possibly be regulated, including municipal lighting. And I got a great deal of constructive feedback, constructive criticism, especially from the Finance Committee. I just want to shout out to the Finance Committee. That was very awakening. And so we came back with Chris's guidance with something simpler. The history here is we have an outdoor lighting bylaw. We've had one since the year 2000. That bylaw regulates all lights, residential and commercial, that are newly installed. So that's been on the books for 25 years now. It hasn't always been adhered to nor enforced. Part of the problem with the old one is that there was no enforcement mechanism implied or stated. In that intervening time, LEDs have taken over how we light, and LEDs have many good qualities and many bad qualities. And so in the meantime, science has told us that there are concerns that we haven't had before that we need to be alert to, especially with senior citizens, with conflict zones at intersections and so forth. A lot of those have to do with glare. There's also components on the effect of LEDs on human health, the effect of the blue wavelengths of LEDs, which are quite strong on the nocturnal environment. I guess you can go to the next one, Evan. And in particular, I want to address this issue of glare because it is how we in the town experience it most often is when there is a security light on the side of a building, be it commercial or residential, that is pointed out sideways in an attempt to illuminate all of the property. But the problem is that light doesn't really, you can't really end it at the property line very easily unless it's shielded. And so consequently, you get a lot of overspill, and it is this glare which most people find objectionable. Be it a neighbor, be it somebody who's trying to round a corner and there is a bright, a bright light on the side of a building, be it a public service, public safety officer investigating something and the security light from the building is shining right in their face and they can't really see the spaces. So one of the things we hope to do is address glare through this, and that's what a lot of what the shielding is about. If you can go to the next one, you can see where the glare is. This is a real situation on Nantucket. I showed this last year. This is a school, and you can obviously see the glare from those lights. And what they did, next slide, they simply turned them down. Now, what's really important here, and I don't think I made this point well enough last time, when you turn a light fixture and you turn it down, you don't make it any dimmer. You just change the distribution of the light. So instead of going out, you allow the light to wash the wall and become a more diffuse source of illumination. So you can see in this picture that the foreground is still lit. And so that's sort of the goal here, to try to address some of the glare, and this will become an issue in the nuisance component. Next slide. The other thing that is new since 2000 for sure is this notion of color temperature. And it's measured in a temperature scale called kelvins. The higher the number, the bluer the light. And again, this goes back to what we're finding environmentally in terms of the damage that blue wavelengths can do to the nocturnal environment. There's something called the insect apocalypse. I didn't make this up. You can go look it up. In the last 50 years, we've lost 75% of all insects. Now, bad lighting isn't responsible for all of that, but it's partly responsible for it. Why we don't have as many fireflies or moths flying at night, that sort of thing. So, color temperature, we would be remiss if we didn't make color temperature part of the next generation outdoor lighting bylaw. Next, please. So, as Chris was pointing out, I'm trying to keep up with you here. The new version that we've put forward, it's still a general bylaw, and my reasoning for doing that instead of the zoning bylaw that we have is that it allows us to identify existing bad lighting as non-conforming, and then give a 10-year grace period for bringing that into conformance unless certain triggers happen, like this construction or you change the lighting and those sorts of things. As Chris said, I've separated it into residential and commercial. The commercial requirements are essentially the same as you saw last time, and there has been general agreement, I think, from everyone that, including the commercial sector, the business association, that what we have proposed there is not unreasonable. Essentially, if you're a business and you've got one of these lights on the side of your building that is shining outward, it would not be conforming, but you'd have 10 years to bring it in conformance. And since LEDs have a finite lifetime, it's entirely reasonable that somebody would replace their lighting anyway within that 10-year period. What's different this time around is that whereas there had been requirements for residential lighting, and in fact, I should point out that the original bylaw that is on the books right now has a requirement that new residential lighting be shielded and not above a certain strength. It has been there all along. However, given the constructive criticism, shall we say, that I got on the notion of regulating residential lighting, we withdrew all of the requirements there and instead put in a set of recommendations for what the town would like to see, so that the residents can take that as guidance for adjusting their lighting or changing their lighting to be better lighting without necessarily having to requirement. However, one of the things that we want to leave in, we want some protection from, let's say, a neighbor from a business or a neighbor from another neighbor for a really bad, glary, egregious overspill of lighting, and that is the nuisance component to this, which exists. It's just like your noise bylaw. If you can hear the noise within 300 feet of the outdoor amplification, you're not in conformity, and the same would apply here. One of the things that's very interesting is that we redefined where we would measure the lighting. Before it was at the property line, and the new guidance is becoming, well, it's not, you would never actually just stand outside at your property line. You'd probably be in your bedroom and be worried about this lighting. So we're changing the definition of where you measure if you're trying to determine a nuisance from the property line to 15 feet inside or at the building wall, whichever is closer. That's a more real-world approach to this. And then finally, what remains from last time, but in a much simplified form, is the enforcement. A problem with all bylaws that I have seen involving outdoor lighting, except for a very few, and our existing one, is that there's no mechanism for enforcement. So in simple terms, we outlined the new bylaw. I guess we need to go to the last panel. The new bylaw would be enforced by the planning department. And I've had a couple of really great conversations and a site walk, if you will, at night with Jose Negron. And we've had some really good conversations about this and how we'd go about doing this. So it's not like coming out of left field for him. There's the usual exemptions. And one of the things that we added this time that was a matter of debate, especially on the Finance Committee, of how about lighting that you use along your walkway so you can get inside safely, or landscape lighting, or holiday lighting, and then how do you define holiday lighting? So we took all those off the table by making those exemptions. From what I can see, holiday lighting is up pretty much 365 days a year, so it would be pretty hard to regulate. And so that's basically all I have for you this evening. I took what we had last time and with the guidance of Chris and Evan and also Jose, we made it a simpler, tighter bylaw that I think will be more receptive to the other boards in town and also to the town meeting reps.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions, comments from the board?
How does this compare to some of the other towns, surrounding towns? Because I know I've heard things such as downward-facing lighting with certain regulations and things like that. How does this compare?
Yeah, the current term for that is fully shielded, which means that all of the light is emitted below horizontal, and that's in here. Previously, like in the existing bylaw, it says fully shielded, but that's not really used. Full cutoff, and that's not really used anymore. So one of the things that we embed in this bylaw where needed are the regulations that have been, not regulations, but the standards that have been created by the Illuminating Engineering Society, which is the standard setting body for lighting for the entire country. And so you'll see IES in there, here and there. This would come into play mostly from a commercial side. So when you have a project come before you, as before, we would ask for a submission of lighting plans, and those lighting plans would have the numbers on them that would make sense from an IES standard sort of view. So in terms of how this matches up against other neighboring towns, most other towns and there are more than 60 towns in Massachusetts that have some form of outdoor lighting bylaw, one way or the other. Maine just passed one too, by the way, just this past week. They are hopelessly vague and hopelessly unenforceable. They'll say things like, must be pointed down so that it doesn't cast a shadow on a neighboring property. Well, how do you quantify that? And so what we're trying to do here, at the expense of introducing a number that can be measured and measured quite easily, we're quantifying what a nuisance would be and can give, in the hands of somebody from the building department or a police officer going out at night or whatever it might be, in 10 seconds I can tell you whether you're conforming or not with a simple measurement.
I gotta say, I was pretty excited when I had seen this coming, when it was supposed to go to the town meeting before. And then when it got pulled, I was a little bit sad because this is a thing that I actually like the idea of getting more stringent with. That's why the 10-year time frame from a financial point of view I get, but at the same time, it's kind of sad that it's going to take 10 years to come up to code. And the other thing that kind of bugs me a little bit is I get that you're going after commercial, but the impact to residential, I mean, being a resident, that has more impact to me than, I get the commercial spillover, but also having the residential issues around with lighting is a big thing as well. So I would hope to see in the future that being a little bit more strict, because I've read the codes the way they stand today, and there's not a lot that you can do with them when you're getting spillover. And the other thing is, depending on property, going 15 feet inside, just the impact for wildlife and things like that on property when there's light pollution. Even though you say use like getting in your bedroom window, it does matter to the environment for where it's spilling over. So that the 15-foot seems a little bit far for me as well. But again, I understand baby steps with doing this, but overall.
Thank you for those comments. I would point out that Mike, in the previous set of public hearings, suggested that maybe we shouldn't wait 25 years to update our outdoor lighting bylaw, and a cadence of maybe 5 years might be appropriate. And actually, in redoing this, I was thinking that. This is something that can be a starting point for us. And then, again, 5 years from now, we will be halfway through that grace period, so to speak. And, of course, I would hope and really appreciate if those who are nonconforming would choose to do the right thing and make the changes before 10 years are up. But that the 10 years is a good number from the standpoint of the business community because they see that as a realistic thing. It was supposed to be realistic from the standpoint of the town in terms of especially the street lights that we have. And in my early conversations with Christine Clancy about this, we sat down and we agreed that 10 years was pretty reasonable for our existing street lighting system, which has been in place since 2012. It's been around for a while. What I hadn't anticipated is that the existing streetlights we have are not burning out very fast. And interestingly, our existing streetlights are pretty good. Pretty good. The only criterion in here that they wouldn't meet would be the color temperature. And so that's not in there anymore in the public right-of-way section. It's no longer in there. Now, I think that's a loophole that somebody could exploit. Not to name names, but there are a couple of utility companies that might want to replace the lights that they have with LEDs, which hasn't happened yet, but trust me, it will happen. It will happen perhaps very soon. And so we would hope that they would do the right thing. But what we've done now really doesn't require the town to do anything, to expend any money to replace anything. Now, I would like to work with Paul Cohen and Christine Clancy when all of those street lights were installed. Sorry if this is getting off the rails here.
Okay.
I apologize.
It's part of the reason why.
When the street lights that we have were installed, it was part of the energy services contract with Johnson Controls. And while we had a wait a minute moment with what they were planning to do with streetlights, we didn't capture the area lighting, what's around this building or at schools. And those are really, really bad, really bad. And so I would hope, working with the town, apart from this bylaw, that we could get some of that corrected in the coming years, just as a matter of natural evolution.
I appreciate your advocacy for this.
And I think the concept of baby steps is really what I was working with Kelly on this, because we really want to get something passed. And the residential component was was one of the two hot topics. Mm-hmm. The other area was the requirement for the town to replace lighting because of the financial situation right now. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to pare it down, get something in, have Kelly work with Christine and Paul to come up with a plan for the town lighting.
And are these slides going to be typical to what would be shown at the town meeting? Because I think the visual aspect of them is very helpful.
Yeah, any slides I'm showing tonight will be the basis for the town meeting slides, and then I'll continue adjusting and fine-tuning.
An important, wasn't really stated outright, but if I may, Chris, my hope and expectation is that, as before, this will be put forward to town meeting as a joint effort of me, citizen petitioner, and you, the planning board.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Who will be presenting? Who will be
Kelly and I.
presenting? Okay, both.
It might be just you, because I was looking ahead to when the second night of town meeting is going to take place, and I'm going to be in Japan somewhere.
Okay.
But I can always zoom in.
We'll figure that out when it comes.
Can I just add a comment? When
Yeah.
it comes to, no, I appreciate some of the reworking. Municipal lighting is still a concern of mine. I would like to see something from Director Clancy stating, that she is comfortable with it, because I remember when we I saw a memo from the first bylaw, it was quite shocking the amount of cost that it was going to require. My other concern is, I know we've had these lights in existence now, the street lights, and but I wouldn't want to see this necessarily restrict the lumens or the brightness so much that I think you'll get more complaints from residents, because the problem you're going to have is, if you drive around now, it's most likely to conserve energy. In some areas, they're not that bright. So I just want to make sure that she or her staff is comfortable with the level of lumens, because I don't want to, you don't want to have to spend all this money and then have residents complain that they can't see as good as before. And
Well, the municipal lighting and the right-of-way lighting is removed from this as part of the.
At least as far as the towns go.
Okay.
Yeah. If you are a utility company or a private developer and you want to slap streetlights up on the right-of-way, which National Grid is doing now, then those would fall under the provisions of this, but the town's streetlights would not.
So right now, a town street light impeding onto other properties wouldn't be helped by this.
Correct.
Awesome.
Also, John, just
baby steps.
When Johnson Controls replaced the streetlights, they replaced them basically lumen for lumen, and you would think, well, that's just the same amount of light. But because of the extra blue component in an LED light, it actually looks much brighter than the previous street lights did. So it might be someone's perception that it's not as bright as it used to be, but the reality is that it is brighter, appears brighter than it used to be.
One slide I'd like to see, because I remember somewhere in everything that was in the last submission, the question of how is this different than, or what is this doing differently than the current bylaw is doing? And I think highlighting what advantages that this bylaw is going to give you over the existing bylaw would be a really good thing to highlight, so people recognize that there is a need for a change.
Thank you for that. And that is, I suspect, what we're going to do. And we attempted to do that. If you go back to if you go back in time to look at the deck that we prepared, one of the things that I did was, here's what the existing bylaw does, and here's what the new one will do that's different. And a town meeting representative took issue with that and didn't interpret it correctly in a number of ways. And that was one of the components of why we withdrew it. But it was mostly because given the financial situation in the town, we didn't want to force the town to have to spend a lot of money. And it was less than Christine Clancy's estimate, but it's still millions of dollars to replace the streetlights here in town at a time when we probably can't afford it. Certainly can't afford it.
But we will add that slide too.
Yeah, I think that would be, because I think people are going to want to see a reason why it's needed.
Yep.
I mean, not just why it's different, but why it's needed.
Can I just ask, do we currently have a lighting standards officer in town, or is this going to be some new position that's going to have to be created with salaries and things of that nature as we're talking about
It's Jose.
the budget and?
It's Jose.
It's Jose.
It's going to be
It's
Jose,
Jose.
okay.
Which is why I appreciate your taking the time to go with Jose, because that was an issue I raised originally.
Right.
Was that hadn't happened yet. So I'm glad
And
that
you know,
it has.
there is a sort of physical part of this that will have to be sorted out, because if you want to measure how bright a light is or isn't at night, and use that magical meter, you'd have to be out at night, or someone would have to be out at night. And what I'm doing with a lighting professional is trying to come up with a simple sort of calculation where we can look at a light that's installed on the side of a building during the daytime, and knowing its lumen output and how far away it is from the property line, do at least an estimate of how much light is going past the property line.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
That's a work in
That's great.
progress. And the lighting professional I asked to do this, he says, "Ooh, that's a novel idea. We'll do that."
And we do need to keep in mind that the current bylaw is enforced by Jose as well.
Right.
Just no one ever uses it.
Well, that's why I was asking, because I remember we talked about a couple of these things months
And-
ago, and like,
yeah.
oh, the specific equipment they're gonna need and the cost
Yeah.
of this and things like that. That's why I'm like, it's just, there's been so much going on. I'm like, do we have this person,
No
or is
one-
it somebody else's job already in town?
Not a lot of people complain about it, and when people do complain, Jose would go out and look at it, but not be able to measure anything. It's a
Yeah.
judgment. So this provides him a little bit more objective measurement that he can use.
Aren't there, I mean, how are the engineers? Go ahead, Anita.
I was gonna say, have we reached out to the CBA, just from like a business perspective, or commercial, just to get their sign off on this and, or their thoughts?
Yeah, thanks for that, Anita. I first approached the CBA before the first time we came before, and had a couple of great meetings with Kirk Marshall and others, including the board. And they are not opposed to these restrictions on the commercial side. They are unlikely to come up before a town meeting and say we support this, but they're content with what we've done, and not opposing it. And I did send the CBA and check back in with Kirk on this new version, which basically, from a commercial point of view, is unchanged from last time. And he says it's the same. We're in the same spot that we are in terms of being satisfied with it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the public? All right. There being none,
Do we need to?
thank you, Kelly.
Do we need to continue this, or is this?
So this is the last article on this zoning public hearing. So yes, we will need to continue this till next meeting.
Okay.
We will, for next meeting, I plan to probably update some things. Joel will have some homework.
Yes.
And we will go over, we won't go over all of the slides, we'll just go over the changes. And then we will hopefully be able to vote on these next meeting. Evan, do you have anything to add?
You'll have a one citizen's petition, which will be opening on the 28th as well.
That's right. All right. All right, so I will take a motion to continue this to next.
Well, I'll move that
meeting.
we continue the zoning amendments hearing until the next meeting on the 28th.
Motion by Mike,
I'll second.
second by Deirdre, and we'll do a roll call. Mike?
Aye.
Joel?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Deirdre?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
And I am an aye. So we are continuing that till next meeting. Thank you, and thank you, Kelly. All right, next up on the agenda is the Middlesex Street neighborhood zoning. It is not a public hearing yet. Following the procedure we did with the Kate's Corner, I wanted to do an informal opportunity first for neighborhood input. Add anything that people want to add in, and then we will open the official public hearing on this next week.
Next meeting.
Next meeting. I did present this to the Vinyl Square Committee this Monday, this past Monday, and got some good vibes. People liked it. Pretty much unchanged since last time I presented it. But there were more people that were attending this time. And got a really good review from one of the residents in the area as well. So that's on that. So we can go over really quickly the article. So back in 2022, all of you will remember that NEMCOG did the zoning conflict study, and a number of zoning conflicts were identified. This area is one of those areas that were identified as zoning conflict. And based on our discussions with Kate's Corner, we decided to have this new zone. We did create the CBLT in the last town meeting. We applied it to Kate's Corner in that same town meeting successfully. And now we're looking to apply it to the Middlesex zoning. I'm not going to go over all of these. Just going back to the definitions really quick. One of the things I did do for these slides is I highlighted the areas of the definition that are to compare the ultralight and the light manufacturing so that people can see the slight differences between the two definitions. So the dark text is the potential differences. The zoning map. The zoning parcels, this is the current zoning in place. The next one is the zoning that we are proposing, and can you expand that a little bit more, Evan? So just to recap, I made some changes to these labels based on some feedback at the last meeting. The top left-hand corner of the diagram will remain CD. The few parcels to the right of that will be changed to RC.
Wait, I'm sorry, what are you pointing to?
Top left corner.
Okay.
Under the word parcels.
Okay.
Under the word rezone, the very top remains multifamily, and then the residential areas underneath it that are currently IA would change to RC. Also attached to our agenda tonight, I have the same zoning handout that I provided at town meeting that allows people to follow along with the acronyms and also the use table. The main core of the IA for the mills and for the railroad area is being changed from IA to CBLT. And then the area of the IA district that abuts the RC down towards the middle right are changing to RC as well. There's a little swath of IA over near the right side that cuts down to the street, and that is changing over to CB to align with the CB near it. So that's what we're proposing. Again, no changes since the last time we spoke about this. And then the next slide summarizes the parcels that we are rezoning. Any questions, comments from the board?
Awesome work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris, have we, or Evan, have we sent out the letters yet to the abutters and what have you for this?
Yeah, letters went out the week of the 5th, prior to this week's Vinyl Square meeting
Okay.
on the 12th. I've received several calls from residents. Interestingly enough, my calls have been for properties that are not proposed to be rezoned.
I got a few inquiries as well. I got one inquiry further down and asking if we could rezone that area. It's another one of the areas with zoning conflicts. So I responded that it is on our list. We have to reprioritize as we go through these, but it is on our list. So this does seem to be a popular movement that seems to be
Gaining momentum.
yes, and gaining
Good.
favor with a lot of residents as well, I think, so. We also, the Vinyl Square Committee also posted a number of postings on the Facebook as well, advertising their meeting, this meeting, and then the public hearing next meeting. All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Any members of the public wish to speak?
Ralph Block, 2 Edwards Place. The only concern that I have, I actually am in favor of the majority of the changes that you're looking to make. The one concern that I have is the property along Stony Brook. 13-19-20. Excuse me. Still houses I believe it's the remnants of the original mill building that burned down back before the McKittrick building was built and the Manzo Freeman building. to rezone that and give that the opportunity to be developed, I think is kind of ludicrous. It's not a usable lot. If anything, it should be deemed open space. And that follows through. You really don't get a good depiction as to how the railroad runs through there. And I understand CBLT for the railroad, but not for the area in close proximity to Stony Brook.
Thank you.
Who owns that?
Which one is that, Evan?
Yeah.
That one,
Yeah,
okay.
can you show that?
I believe it's,
It's highlighted in blue.
yep. And I believe it's in common ownership with one of the mill properties.
Yep. So to address,
I think it's Chelmsford Management.
so to address one of your concerns, the designation of public in the zoning is for public land. And because it's privately owned, we would not be able to zone that public. The idea here on this one, on this, can you go to the slide with the zoning? So right now it's zoned industrial. We're proposing that it change to CBLT. The redevelopment or development opportunities exist regardless of whether it's IA or CBLT. What I believe, and the board members can also weigh in, but if that area is to be developed or redeveloped, there are higher protections for that area, that surrounding area and the natural state of that area, from the CBLT zone than IA provides. We would, like I said, we would not be able to rezone that public. The only other options would be residential, commercial, or the CBLT.
And that's kind of where I was headed, was if you zoned it as residential, per se, because of its proximity to the brook, it's not a buildable lot. So just by means of it being cut in half by the brook, you can't build on it anyway. So in calling it residential, you've offered the protection of the property. It would have an opportunity for the trees and the brush to grow back. It would, again, buffer the noise from the trains for that whole neighborhood of Edwards Place. That lot was clear-cut about 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And the noise is horrendous from the train. It was never like that until it was clear-cut. So if we could somehow protect that piece of land, let it grow back, you can't build on it. Call it residential.
I think Evan can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if it's unbuildable for residential, it would also be unbuildable for most commercial uses.
Yeah, so I don't know too much about this property, but I think it's used for some sort of staging or parking or storage of vehicles or 18-wheelers or what have you. The aerial photo seems to indicate there's a trailer here. So if it stays industrial or CB light, then it can be used for commercial accessory purposes, like it is currently. If you rezone it to residential, then you are making it pre-existing non-conforming. You couldn't continue, you wouldn't be able to expand any of the accessory commercial uses there. As far as buildability, it would be a difficult property to build for any type of use.
Period, yeah.
Now, good point with there's a storage container on the property now. And unfortunately, it's also started to be a dumping ground for trash. I don't know what can be done about that, but I know you can't park vehicles there, you can't park tractor trailers there because inherently they leak oil, and the oil leakage doesn't have any kind of protection for the brook. So you have an opportunity for the oil leakage from the trucks to find its way into the brook. So that even creates a bigger problem.
Have you ever tried going to like ComCom about, I don't know where the wetlands and stuff is in this property? Or,
Well, it's
because if there's
river-
dumping.
At least
there's-
riverfront involved, if it's Stony Brook.
But there might be something in there with, especially if it's becoming like excessive with trash and things like that, that they can push.
I don't know,
Can we
there
put
was
that, can we look at this property? Sorry, can we look at this property, I'm not opposed to zoning this residential.
Well, the
If there's
challenge.
nothing there now and there's nothing can be built, like what's next to it?
Well, Anita, the challenge with residential is that it is owned by a commercial entity. So the guidelines that we've been going with is what the current use is, and because it is owned and being used as essentially a commercial use, changing it to a residential.
I don't
Well, I mean,
think
when we
that's gonna-
change something, I mean, the current use gets grandfathered in, right?
It does.
Yes.
Yeah, but it
So-
does
Does
limit
it-
future sales.
Yeah.
It limits
Yeah.
what the current owner can do with
But
it.
it's not, yeah, but it's not buildable.
I don't see the
So, I don't
downside
know,
to
maybe
that.
it's worth a chat with the owner.
But I think the current condition is something that the Concom, I mean, I think that
Yeah,
could be raised to Concom.
I don't know what rezoning it to residential is gonna solve any better than what rezoning it to CBLT will, because a lot of things you mentioned are really more Concom-related issues because there's riverfront. Riverfront has quite an extension buffer, so if somebody's doing stuff in the buffer zone of the riverfront or doing stuff in the riverfront they shouldn't be,
Yeah, I
that's
think
a,
it's
that's a
150,
Concom.
if memory serves me correctly, it's 150 feet.
Yeah, I think it's 200 actually, but.
Well,
200.
Yeah.
Is it 200 now?
Yeah, for riverfront. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that in general, our objective always has been to reduce the zoning conflict. Certainly going from IA to CBLT does that. I mean, that was the same thing at Kate's Corner. We didn't go all the way to residential with some of the lots. We just went to CBLT. But in this case, I don't even know what going to residential is going to buy you in terms of protection that you weren't going to get from CBLT.
And in my opinion, changing it to residential in the middle of the CBLT essentially creates a
Yeah.
new zoning conflict.
Well, yeah.
Well, it wouldn't really be in the middle. I mean, you're just adding on to what you're already changing in, you just
be
move
attached to the
over.
RC.
I mean, you'd create two
Yeah,
pockets. If you did that, you'd create two pockets of CBLT, and you'd
agree
rather
with-
just have a swath
But
of it.
if someone wanted to buy, like say the person who butted the CBLT wanted to buy that, then they could build, they may have the space to build residential, because then it would be,
Well,
waterfront, like somewhat, you would have a view of the water and stuff like that. I don't know.
But like Joel
thought.
said, anything they do there is going to be restricted by conservation. Though that's where the biggest restriction is going to be. It's
Yeah.
not going to be a zoning restriction.
Right. It's going to be a
Right,
commission restriction.
but since it abuts RC, right? If the abutter of RC purchased this property, then combined, they may have an ability to build something
I mean,
Do we want
nicer,
that?
larger, add something,
CBLT
but
seems
not,
protected
but
more.
not right on the
This
riverfront.
property
I think you would
buy
want-
that property, you get this, so you could.
I would think you would want to develop something there so that you would have some sort of stormwater control of what's happening. If you go to residential, you can't build on it. You're essentially leaving it as it is, and that isn't going to keep people from dumping on it any more than if you made it CBLT. I think if you make it some use that somebody can actually do something with, then the way our codes and regulations so far are set up, they're gonna build into it protections that we want for that area. So I think we would actually want it to be CBLT so that somebody would actually do something there. But if you make it residential, it's going to stay as it is, and it's just going to continue. The only difference may be that somebody is parking a trailer there, but it's still going to be degraded, and people are still going to dump stuff there, and it's not really going to be controlled. So I don't think you're going to accomplish what is wanted through that.
I think if you look at the last lot at the bottom of Edwards Place, that last lot abuts the lot that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And the property line is quite lengthy.
Which one are you talking
one in the
about?
back.
What property number?
1319-20.
16.
I can't read it. It's on the, yeah, I think it is 16.
And then 20, because
I
if
see.
you look at
Yeah,
the property
16
line,
and
how it comes
20
up.
abut each other.
16, okay, fine.
The only thing that would be a benefit, I think, by changing it to residential was if the owner of the property -16 were to somehow acquire that lot, he could probably build another house.
Would you want him to?
Or multiple houses there.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's also,
But that's not
that's
gonna
also a
protect-
risk for that area, is that if that is residential, and it's the same owner, those lots could be combined and more housing could be put in there.
Well, you could, if it's RC, you can only build a single family, all right?
But you can
They combined
rezone
it.
that, so you have like multiple lots now versus that one giant lot. You could subdivide those lots and put more houses in.
I think there's more protection by being CB Light
Yeah.
and
It-
separating it.
I do too. And even if somebody wanted to do that, I don't know why they couldn't use SEOD.
You've convinced me.
It's a combination of residential.
I'm actually, on the side note, I'm curious if that parcel is even buildable,
It's not.
like, with the rules.
I don't think there's enough space upland.
Yeah.
No,
I-
it's not. The -20 lot is, no how, no way is that buildable.
I would recommend following up with David Coons on that property to see if he can take a look at it, to see if there are any conservation issues with that.
He's the conservation agent.
How you spelling the last name?
KOONCE.
You go to the website, his number's right
Yeah,
there.
he's on, yeah.
You go to
Okay.
Conservation Committee.
Yeah, he's very good too.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sir.
Any other members of the public wish to speak?
It was a good discussion.
Sorry, nice to have Virginia back.
Hi,
Nice to see
Virginia
you.
Timmons, 28 Lovett Lane. As Chris mentioned, we were helping him try to roll out the cascade of communications for this, and I want to thank Chris for his efforts with that, too. I did get one input since our discussions Monday night that I just wanted to share with you. There was a question about whether the new front setbacks, building heights, number of stories, or any potential coverage changes might affect or pose any issues with existing structures or create nonconformities. And I don't think it was a concern. It was just like maybe the planning board might just want to sanity check or double check that. So I just thought I'd pass that along to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, that is a potential risk in any rezoning. I think in general, if we're going to a resident, from IA to residential, and there are non-conforming, part of what the ZBA would look at is other houses in that area as well. And if they're in alignment with the other non-conforming residential areas, it doesn't typically pose a concern. And based on what I've seen, most of those are pretty similar. I think going to the CBLT, it likely would be less non-conforming, because I think actually, no, it may be, well, the setbacks and things for IA are typically larger than the CBLT, if I remember correctly. So those would not be more non-conforming, they'd be less non-conforming. So yeah, that's something we can continue to keep in mind, but
Good question.
yep,
Yeah, it's a good question.
okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Since this is not a public hearing, it's a general discussion. We will continue this in the next meeting as a public hearing. And get ready for town meeting. All right. Next item on the agenda is the Community Development Director's Report.
Okay, good evening. Chris had asked me to include the town's ADU annual report to the state. This was presented at the Select Board's meeting Monday evening. So as you may recall, the ADU state regulations require annual, not compliance, but annual monitoring and reporting from towns into the state. And this attachment is the town's last calendar year report. And I'll just go over the highlights, very high level. So for calendar year 2025, 7 detached applications were submitted, of which 4 have been approved, and none have received occupancy yet. For attached or within, 11 have been submitted, 9 have received building permits, and 1 has received a CO. So that's a total of 18, essentially over maybe an 8 or 9 month period. So, you know, I think it's safe to say that we continue to receive increased number of inquiries. Applications are increasingly being submitted. So I think it's safe to say, you know, around 20 to 25 a year I think is pretty reasonable. And I say that within the context of, I gave you a handout. The state is very committed to advancing and promoting ADUs. So one of their first steps is what I handed out to you, the announcement of a construction loan program for income-eligible people. Second one that you may have heard about, announced or discussed Monday night, was the state is in the process of doing a design kind of contest. The intent there, or the expectation is that at some point the state will pre-approve ADU designs for building permit purposes. And if someone walks in with one of those pre-approved designs, then it's good to go from a building permit perspective. As you can imagine, hiring professionals to do the surveying and the building plans is expensive. So the state is trying to reduce the entry costs associated with building ADUs. While there is no indications yet, I think it's safe to assume that the state will also be monitoring the the actual zoning and whether that is whether they consider that to be a hindrance to the development of ADUs.
I wish the state would put a little more motivation into helping towns with their infrastructure to handle this sort of stuff, but,
Yeah.
you know, that's just being reasonable.
Understood.
Do we know how many of these were owner-occupied applications versus not?
I don't think we don't require that. You cannot require that per the state law and the regulations. So we don't have any ability to, factually determine if what the applicant's intent is.
Can you request
I'm just curious, like, we know-
applications through FOIA?
We just know the address, right? We can look it up.
Oh, yeah, we have all the
Right.
information, I think, but to Anita's question, I don't think we don't ask
Right.
whether the principal dwelling is owner occupied or what the intent of the ADU is.
Right. You're not allowed to do
Correct.
that. Yeah.
Looks like none of these have gotten rejected either, right?
No,
So-
in fact, so all of these have been, with the exception of a driveway non-compliant issue, they've all been 100% compliant for setbacks and so forth. So it appears as though people are designing to comply.
And is this something that they turned in already?
Yes, this has been submitted.
So did they just not finish it?
I don't know exactly.
It says like required on the ADU bylaw ordinance question. They didn't do anything with it, and then
Yeah, I'll
no
have to
comments
check.
in the end.
I'll have to check on that. Only other item I have is the first meeting of the Managed Growth Strategy Committee has been scheduled with Northern Middlesex Council of Governments for January 22nd. Essentially, just to bring everybody up to speed. What we've done since the state denial is we've pivoted to NIMCOG. Several months ago, we applied for a grant to basically assist with scoping and budgeting. So Monday, next Thursday's meeting will be the first of 3 meetings as part of that, I think it's a $10,000 grant through NIMCOG to focus on scoping and budgeting.
What time does that mean?
I haven't determined that, but likely 7.
Okay.
And that's the subcommittee with the task force with it.
Yes, the task force, correct.
With our 2
Are those meetings
co-chairs.
open to others?
Yeah, so, it's
Okay, so
it's gonna be a
public-
posted meeting.
Public meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gonna be a posted meeting, it'll have to take minutes.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, let's go back to the agenda. Liaison updates. Anyone?
It's the holidays.
Yeah, not much here. The one meeting I had, they had 3 people with the flu, so they didn't have quorums. So much for the Historic Commission.
I guess one update for us is they're looking for Final Square, North Chelmsford. They're looking at doing some sort of spring event. They were tossing around different ideas, but then they're talking about shutting down the road, and there was a little bit back and forth if that's even possible over there. So, because they want to try to do something with a trolley or something to bring you to the mills, and also bring you potentially down to like a movie area at the park and do something on the center. So it's kind of interesting there's a lot of energy for it, but I'm not sure where it will go yet. So TBD.
A little road under the common.
Well, I know they're shut down on Memorial Day, because every other year, the parade's down there, so
it's there this year too. Yeah.
So they do have to
I
shut
asked
it
them
down
to do it at the same time, but they said no.
That would, if you're shutting down for the parade, it would make it so much easier to shut it down for the rest of the day, but.
All right,
Agree.
any other updates?
Center Village meets tomorrow. I know we're gonna be talking with NIMCOG about some of the plans and drawings that we just got. Roadways and sidewalk expansions, and they were gonna have.
Just for 110?
Yeah, Chelmsford Street. I'm still trying to go through them. Like, this makes no sense to me because I couldn't get it to blow up enough that I could read the words without it becoming blurry again. So that is my goal before tomorrow night, to figure out why this is not working. I've had lots of technology issues over the last week. My computers have not liked me. So I'm going to do that, and I know they're planning another public hearing at the library to discuss the potential plans and stuff in February. We don't have a date yet for it, but hopefully we'll start having some dates between next week and the beginning of February.
Okay.
And the next NIMCOG meeting, NIMCOG council meeting will be next Wednesday, the night before Managed Growth.
Okay.
So I'll be attending that.
Joel?
Board of Health met. And I did not ask about the you know. There were some interesting things. There was I guess a number of health inspections of restaurants and things like that where there were violations. Usually it's a training issue, and so they're fixing that. So Presta Cafe was actually one of the ones that this happened to, but it was because they moved management to a new place, so they brought somebody back, so fixing that issue. One of the main things they were discussing was a regulation on connecting to sewer and the timing of pumping and inspection, so that as the systems get older, that they're done more frequently, and also that particularly in high aquifer areas, that it's more stringent for high aquifer areas. So I think that's good. So they're working on basically just changing their regulations, so they'll be voting on that in the next meeting. And some of the interesting information that came out of that was that Chelmsford has 101 septic systems, 29 are in high aquifer areas, and they know where they all are. And some, they'll never be connected because of just the way that where they are with respect to a sewer line. But in general, what they would look for is, as those systems age, that they would have those people consider going on public sewer. But there's an issue because of our sewer moratorium, and so they want to have a discussion with the select board. And since Aaron is also the liaison from the select board at the Board of Health, he's aware of that. And so I think it's good information for us to know, and certainly something I fully support. Is encouraging.
There's no moratorium anymore.
There is.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that. And the other interesting thing was that flu cases jumped from 6 in December or November, I forget which months, but they jumped from 6 to 103. So we're sorry. So you're one of that. You're number 103 apparently. So
I don't know.
You've not gotten it,
Flu
so-
shot seems to be working for me.
Did you not go get your flu shot?
Don't be jinxing yourself.
Yeah.
So the next meeting is on February 3rd.
Okay. Conservation met yesterday. They had no regulatory hearings. They are still potentially looking at bringing forward not a zoning article, but a bylaw change. They're still discussing it in their subcommittee. So probably next meeting they would talk about that and what that would be.
Pertaining to what?
I'm trying to remember what it was.
Buffer to vernal pools?
Yeah, I think so. Something about that. So formalizing the buffer.
Maybe in buffer to floodplain too.
I think it was floodplain. I think that's the one. Yeah, because we do have vernal pools already, so it's the floodplain buffer that they're potentially looking at. That's really all they had from that meeting. All right. Any new business? We've already covered managed growth strategy. So meeting minutes.
Actually, before we do meeting minutes, would we put the Chelmsford Inn discussion on the agenda at some point? Did we think, were we going to do that after town meeting? I know we talked about it last time.
What on the agenda?
The Chelmsford Inn issue, like, are they complying with zoning? What's happening with that?
Oh, I thought we
the
decided it
plan.
was not worth pursuing
Yeah.
since they're closing in March or something.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it would be useful to have a discussion to ensure that what happens after that isn't a continuation of the same kind of use. That someone else isn't coming in to do the same thing, so.
Yeah, I think we
Oh.
did talk about
Yeah.
adding
Yeah.
that to the agenda.
Thought we did.
Yeah. So we can add it to next week's. Do we have any regulatory hearings coming next meeting?
No, you'll have one new one on February 11th.
All right, so yeah, let's,
Just as a discussion.
Yeah,
not-
let's
not
add it
as
to the
a-
agenda.
not as a
We can
hearing.
add it. It's going to be a very short discussion.
that's fine. Let's
Yeah.
just add it to the agenda so it's public.
Okay.
And you just reminded me that there was also supposed to be a meeting, I thought mid to late January, about the gap analysis
Yeah.
follow-up.
Yeah.
is that.
It's not mid-January yet. Just wait.
I don't, I don't expect it to happen in January.
Yeah, I'm not expecting that either. I will ask the question at the next
Mid to
board.
late January of 2027?
I gave them a break.
I'm like, doesn't he ask that question every
I
month?
don't think we heard a year on that.
I do let them know every time. It's of interest to this board.
Yes. And Concom too, because they do ask about it as well.
I'll do that. Okay.
All right. Meeting minutes, the November 6th meeting minutes, I believe.
No, you have 12th, November 12th, and December 10th.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a typo on the, no, it's not me. I was looking at the old version of the agenda.
Okay.
Well, I'll give you the motion.
Yes, please.
Motion to approve
actually, hold
minutes
on.
of 11/12.
That's right. The meeting minutes on the notes on the agenda is wrong, but
Right.
yeah.
That's what he just said.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Does anyone have any things they have an issue with the first one?
Which one is that? What are we looking
The-
at?
It's
I'm just
November
double
12th.
checking to
The
see if everyone was here.
November
Yeah, everyone
12th.
was here.
November 12th then. I don't think I had anything on that one.
November 12th.
Yep.
Move to approve the meetings minutes of November 12th.
Move
Second.
by Deirdre, second by Mike, and roll call. Mike?
Aye.
Joel?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Deirdre?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Sarita?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well.
All right.
So unanimously approved. The December 10th one did have a correction on it. The correction was that I sent to Becky was that Sarita was on Zoom on that one.
On 251, they have Joel listed as voting twice.
Didn't catch that.
I missed that too.
Yeah, it says motion passes 611, roll call, Luna, Sousa, Tanini, Contois, and Fernandez, and then you. So John voted twice, but
John
the numbers don't
voted
match.
John voted twice.
All right.
I had to read that 3 times to make sure that I was reading it correctly. I'm like, no, he's there twice.
Which one
I
is
don't
it?
even look at those minute votes.
2-51. Well, it's right after that one. So it's motion by Luna to deny the site plan review per section
Save
195,
us from
104.
AI.
But I don't look at the names. I have to start doing that.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I only do because every so often, either my first name or last name gets spelled wrong. They like to put a P in my last name, so I'm always
missing?
looking at
My
that.
name is often
If you go
spelled
into,
wrong.
like, I just couldn't find it by 2-51, so you had that roll call, but then it's the motion that's right below it that says
Oh,
by Luna to
okay.
deny the site plan review.
2, top.
Yep. Section 195-104 for 195 River Neck Road. So if you go down to where it says motion passes 611, then it goes roll call. Luna, Sousa, Tanini, Comtois, Fernandez, and LaValle all voted in favor of denial. So
Okay.
they have John voting twice.
Vote early, vote often.
Yes!
Yeah.
We don't want his vote getting thrown out because he was, listed as
Exactly.
voting twice now,
So
so.
page 2.
Yes.
Paragraph 2, under motion, it has, motion passes 6 to 1 to 1, and that is where the Sousa is listed twice.
Twice.
Okay.
So what's the correction?
So we're going to pull him out.
One of those Sousas.
Oh, so
those
it's on, if
has
the
to
numbers
go.
work.
The
if you-
numbers work, we
I
just
see.
can't, because the way it's written, it's 711.
Yeah.
But John also can't vote twice, so you got to pull him out of there.
Yeah.
All right, so Evan, do you have that correction for Becky? Thanks. All right, so I'll
I
take a
was-
motion with
well,
that correction.
I was
We'll
disappointed.
move to approve the minutes of December 10th as corrected.
I was disappointed the lemon tree was not
Second.
mentioned.
I know, I was too.
I
I
was
was
looking for the
expecting to
lemon
see
tree.
the lemon tree.
Oh, I
Did not see the lemon.
abstained, so maybe I shouldn't.
It didn't register with
Second.
AI.
No, it did not.
No, you can approve the minutes.
Yeah.
But I was kind of disappointed not to see the lemon tree.
Are you
in the
seconding?
meeting notes.
Maybe when you go
Yes.
visit.
Oh,
Motion,
maybe.
motion by Mike, second by Deirdre. Roll call.
Aye.
Mike? Joel?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Deirdre? Marcy? Saritha?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Unanimous. All right, I will take a motion
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Deirdre, second by Mike.
We don't need a second.
Roll call.
He'll second anything. Aye.
I turned off Zoom on Anita.
Unanimous.
We don't need a second.
I guess you expect to vote on that one.